I will kill the author. Chapter 155 Idiosis inverted question mark to ring alert. As the alarm ring disrupted my peaceful sleep, I attempted to cover my head with the pillow to dampen the noise in my ears. However, the persistent ringing of the alarm refused to subside. In the end, I reluctantly sat up and rubbed my bleary eyes. Upon checking the clock with my blurry vision, I found out it was only 4:50 a.m. right now. Arghh broken bar. It was early morning, and I groaned at the thought of facing the day ahead. Dragging myself out of bed, I shuffled to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face, trying to wash away the remnants of sleep. As I brushed my teeth, I tried to motivate myself for the day ahead and reminded myself of the tasks I needed to accomplish before the second arc of the story starts. Eventually, I managed to shake off the last vestiges of drowsiness and began to get dressed for the academy after taking a refreshing yet short shower. With each article of clothing I put on, I felt a sense of readiness, as if I was preparing for battle. Why in the world was I being so dramatic, one may ask? Because I might very well be actually preparing for a battle. Yeah, I didn't get up so early in the morning for nothing. I hate early mornings. The thing is, last night after Leo's inquiry session with me was over, he asked me to come to the training hall today before 5:30. After I told him about my progress in learning a level 3 weapon art in just under a month, he said he wanted to test me. Yeah, I didn't understand what the fuck it meant either. When I asked him to explain, he simply said that he wanted to observe me in a live fight. Apparently, being able to learn a level 3 weapon art in such a small amount of time is an incredible feat. I didn't know that, since the novel was from Nero's perspective and he was shown to learn all the level 3 weapon arts in mere days. I thought I was doing average, if not bad. It seems that I've acquired not only Lucas' memories but also his talent from when he was a child. Anyway, knowing Leo's character, I doubt he would ask me to fight with a combat doll. He would definitely fight me himself. What I wanted to know was, why, just why was he doing it? Isn't he one of the legs of the spider? Shouldn't he have much more important matters to attend than testing a very, very handsome cadet like me? Hey, I mean, he never showed any interest in any of the other cadets before this, so why was he taking such an interest in me? Even if I believe it's because of my talent, there were more talented individuals than me present in this academy. Even with talent, I can't be called heaven-defying, so that should not be enough to pique his interest. I don't know, to be honest. If I could, I would just avoid him. I don't want to associate with a terrorist, or should I say a separatist, more than I have to. I don't want to catch the attention of central government officials. After all, it's fine. I'll just entertain him this one time by complying with his test and then stray clear from him. Anyway, I was dressed up. I walked over to my closet and opened it to take out a backpack. Opening its zipper, I took out the beast egg and gently yet carefully clutched it between my arms. I sat back on the edge of my bed and quickly started channeling mana into it. I didn't channel too much mana into it since I had to spar in a few minutes, say only a small portion from my mana pool. After a few minutes, I stopped and got up to leave my apartment. Upon making sure that I had locked the door, I let out a deep breath and walked off. In just under a few minutes, I reached the academy and arrived in front of the training hall. I looked in and saw a rather handsome man with waist-long red hair sitting cross-legged on the matted floor. He had his eyes closed as he appeared to be in a deep state of meditation. Should I disturb him? I thought, but then I quickly remembered he was the one who called me here in the first place. Sensei, can I come in? I asked, finally deciding to disturb him. Leo opened his eyes and looked at me. A frown appeared on his face as he asked, Lucas, what are you doing here? Broken by Did this old man hit his head somewhere? While trying to calm my twitching eyebrow, I replied, Sensei, you asked me to come here last night, remember? Oh, that? Leo arched his eyebrows as he remembered before a frown appeared back on his face. But I asked you to be here at 5:30, Lucas. 5:30 is in PM not AM. Oh Lord, forgive me, for I am about to kill someone. Leo's face remained stoic as he broke the silence with a calm voice. "Lucas, I'm joking, come inside." "A broken bar, did you call me here this early in the morning to fuck with me with your dry sense of humor, you old bastard?" Is what I said in my mind, but since I had no intention of dying today, I kept my mouth shut and barely managed to flash a smile with my twitching lips. As Leo stood up, I went inside and faced him. "You must know why I called you here, right?" Leo said, gently touching a ring on his finger. "Judging by all the runes engraved on the surface of that ring, I could only assume it to be a dimensional storage artifact. You mentioned you wanted to test me, whatever that means, so I guess you are going to spar with me?" I answered in a questioning tone. "Affirmative." Leo nodded his head. "Sensei, can I ask why? With all due respect, you never showed interest in anyone's training before, so why now?" I asked. "Well, none of them possess the talent you do," Leo answered. "They aren't worthy of my interest." "Worthy of your interest? What are you, a god, suppressing such thoughts?" I retorted. "That is not true," I said. "There are many other cadets who are much more talented than me. Take Nero, Anastasia, or Amelia, for example. You should have known that to be the case if you had ever paid attention in your own class." Leo shook his head and let out a deep sigh. "Anastasia's skill with the bow is impressive, but she's better suited for close combat from the way she moves. And as for Amelia, her talent in archery is exceptional, but she'll never be the best. Nero, on the other hand, is a true beast. His basic swordsmanship is so honed to the point where even I couldn't teach him anything in that regard." "A broken bar, so he does pay attention to the students in his class. I never would have guessed. If you know all that." I started to interject, but Leo held up a hand to stop me. "But here's the thing, the names of the cadets you mentioned don't possess the same raw talent that you do. Sure, they can fight well, but the spark in their eyes is that of a protector, fighting to defend what they hold dear. You, on the other hand, look like you want to win at any cost. That look in your eyes is a rarity, and it reminds me of myself when I was younger." A broken bar, yeah. I understood nothing of what he was saying. The look in my eyes? Is he trying to sound like an old cultivation master in Webnovels? Huh? Seeing the look of confusion and ridicule plastered on my face, Leo let out another sigh. "If you don't understand what I said, then just think of it as my instincts. My gut feeling as a martial artist is telling me that you will surprise me, so I want to spar with you. Now that's what I can understand. A battle maniac martial artist wanting to fight someone he thinks is interesting. Yeah, that's the troop I am familiar with." Suiya now, after saying what he had to say, Leo summoned a katana from the pocket space of his dimensional ring. "Ready your weapon." Suiya Lucas summoned his bladed spear. As the weapon appeared in his hand with a flash of bright light, he pointed its bladed head at his opponent, Leo Kurogami. Slightly bending his knees, he assumed a basic spearman stance. A good stance, Leo thought in his head. Someone's fighting stance reveals a multitude of insights about them. It conveys the countless hours that they dedicated to honing their martial art, the harrowing battles they fought on the edge of life and death, and even their true nature and innermost thoughts. Lucas's current stance was undoubtedly strong, yet there was still a big room for improvement. Despite never showing it, Leo Kurogami had always harbored a certain level of interest toward Lucas, albeit not for positive reasons. Leo's curiosity stemmed partly from his own complicated history intertwined with the Morningstar family. Despite being their son, how could he be so weak? That's what Leo used to think. However, as time went on, Leo began to see a glimmer of familiar emotions in Lucas's eyes, sentiments he himself and his former friend Reynold had experienced during their youth, the longing for victory, to be able to do anything to win, cross any limits and blur any lines of morality and possibilities. It was the unmistakable gaze of a warrior. Lucas carried within him not the demeanor of a guardian or survivor but that of a true warrior, or a rarity if he says so himself. Leo was confused. The rumors he had heard portrayed Lucas as nothing more than a wasted noble, someone who had given up on life due to a minor setback. But the Lucas he saw before him was someone else entirely when compared to the person he heard about in the rumors. He was the most laid-back person in Class 1A1 and not a tantrum-throwing noble who had reduced himself just to his name. Leo even learned that Lucas had played a significant role in their class's win during the mock war. Leo couldn't help but wonder at that moment, were the rumors about Lucas being a fallen genius even true? However, despite his ponderings, Leo realized that such matters held little significance to him. Without talent in martial arts or a high mana core potential, Lucas could never become strong. After all, sheer intelligence can only take a man so far in this world. Though the saying knowledge is power lingered in his thoughts, deep down, he knew that in this world, true power resided solely in one's physical prowess. He thought it was a shame, despite being a Morningstar, Lucas didn't possess the same level of strength as his renowned parents. He wasn't a strong martial artist like his father, nor was he a brilliant mage like his mother. It was disheartening to witness someone who was not exceptional in any way. For some reason, this fact reminded Leo of him. He saw the remnants of his past in him. He heard echoes of his struggle reflecting off the silver-haired boy, but there was nothing he could do to help the child. After all, even if Leo was feeling bad about him, Lucas was a Morningstar, and Leo had learned from previous experiences to refrain from interfering with anyone from that family. Also, he had much more important matters to attend to than helping out a kid in need. However, fate had other plans. Last night when Leo was reviewing the video footage from the security cameras he acquired from the police, he saw someone utilizing a weapon art that he had hoped to never encounter again, the Dawnbreaker. After that, he consulted with Nero and Anastasia regarding who that fighter was, since he didn't recognize him as someone from Class 1A1. To his surprise, Nero and Anastasia revealed that the only other person involved in the battle during the last few minutes alongside them was Lucas. However, they admitted that they hadn't witnessed how Lucas managed to kill the vampire, yet they confirmed that it was indeed Lucas who struck the final blow. Leo's confusion deepened. The revelation of Lucas's involvement in such a remarkable feat raised further questions about the true nature of the young Morningstar. After all, to Leo's knowledge, Reynold had never officially taught the Dawnbreaker to anyone else aside from Yelena, and what he saw being performed in the security camera footage was the first step of the Dawnbreaker technique. That must only mean that Lucas learned that first step by himself. That was an incredible feat. Dawnbreaker was an exceptionally hard weapon art to learn, especially since there are no written manuals for it. Yet, Lucas learned it. That's why Leo summoned him last night. Something about the boy was intriguing enough to even catch his eye, and he was proven correct. After talking to him, Leo discovered that Lucas had almost learned a level 3 weapon art in under a month without any guidance or instructions from anyone. Leo knew that Lucas had a little talent for martial arts from all the rumors he heard about him, but he had also heard that his talent was nothing too remarkably, just greatly above average but nothing heaven-defying. Now for reference, it usually takes a normal person somewhere around 9 to 12 months to learn a level 3 weapon art, even with guidance. If that's not remarkable talent, then Leo couldn't understand what else is. So, if his kid really had this kind of talent, then how come Reynold Morningstar, one of the best martial artists that Leo knows, didn't see it? Why did he shun Lucas simply because he awakened a low mana core potential? Arghh, Leo groaned in his mind. I could never understand that guy. A whirlwind of emotions swept over Leo's mind, temporarily clouding his head with a mixture of nostalgia, rage, frustration, and bitterness. Reynolds's face flashed in his thoughts, evoking a surge of complex feelings within him. A bitter smile formed on his lips as Leo muttered in a whispering tone, "And here I thought I had moved on from the past." In the next moment, however, he shook his head and cleared his mind. Taking a deep breath next, Leo drew his katana from its sheath, the blade gleaming in the azure light as he coated it with mana. He extended his arms, firmly gripping the handle with both hands, and positioned the katana close to his chest, assuming a traditional stance. With eyes fixed on Lucas, he nodded. "Come." Come, TSK. Lucas clicked his tongue while clutching the spear in his hand tighter. As soon as Leo took his stance, Lucas instinctively understood that he had no chance of defeating him. It was a stance that spoke of a man who had endured numerous life and death struggles and emerged triumphant from each one, the man known as the god of battlefield. But it doesn't matter, Lucas never had any intention of winning anyway. He just needs to get through this little sparring session, and that's all. But still, what should he do? Leo asked him to come at him, but Lucas could not spot a single opening in his stance. It was simply too perfect. So should he wait? No, he thought. Instead of giving him a chance to come at me, I'll take the battle to him. Whooshaw! With the thought of taking the lead in mind, Lucas willed mana into his legs and lunged forward at his opponent. Taka closing the distance, Lucas unleashed a barrage of spear thrusts at Leo with fierce determination. Cling, cling, clinger! With swift precision, Leo skillfully parried each of Lucas' thrusts, his katana serving as an impenetrable barrier against the onslaught. The metallic clashes of their weapons filled the air, and sparks erupted from the intense clashes. Damn it, Lucas thought in his mind, knowing that blindly attacking Leo like this would get him nowhere. Hopping back a few steps, Lucas created some distance between himself and Leo, providing a brief respite to gather his thoughts. Aware that a different approach was necessary, Lucas began to brainstorm alternative strategies, searching for a way to engage Leo more effectively in their battle. You think too much, Leo suddenly spoke and channeled mana into his legs. Before Lucas could react or even respond to those words, Leo appeared right in front of him, closing the distance between them in the blink of an eye. In that split second, Leo capitalized on Lucas's momentary vulnerability. With a fluid motion, he executed a precise strike, aiming for a critical opening in the young Morningstar's defense. Swisher! The blade of Leo's katana swiftly whistled through the air, guided by his years of combat experience. Clinger! However, just as Leo's strike was about to connect, Lucas's instincts kicked in, and he managed to react in the nick of time. With a swift block of his spear, he diverted the trajectory of Leo's blade and narrowly avoided a devastating blow. Almost instantly, lifting up his right leg, Lucas threw a powerful forward kick with the intention of hitting Leo flat in the chest, but his kick met nothing but air. Leo effortlessly evaded the blow by twirling his body to the left. He's fast, Lucas thought in his mind, but before he could process any further thoughts, Leo capitalized on the opening, utilizing the momentum of his evasion. Swiftly, Leo spun on his left leg and twisted his body like a tornado. Thwacka! With impeccable timing and precision, he threw a roundhouse kick that connected with a resounding impact against Lucas's abdomen, sending shockwaves through his body. The impact knocked the air out of Lucas and sent him hurtling backwards. Thud! Eventually, he dropped and crashed to the ground, rolling and skidding several times before finally coming to a stop. Without wasting a moment, Lucas swiftly regained his balance and jumped back to his feet, showing no sign of pain. However, that was just an act to his poker face. In reality, a sharp pain in his abdomen persisted. It felt as if his ribs had been mercilessly crushed once more. Gritting his teeth, Lucas tightened his grip on his spear, his determination unyielding. Locking eyes with Leo, he swiftly assumed his stance again, refusing to allow the pain to hinder his resolve. Leo's voice reverberated with a mix of amusement and disbelief. Yes, that's what I was talking about, the look in your eyes right now, that's it. Despite knowing you can't win against me, you refuse to back down. The desire for victory runs deep within you. Lucas, still grimacing with determination, shook his head in disagreement, his voice strained. No, you're wrong. I don't seek victory. I don't even want to fight. It's too early in the morning, and all I truly want is some peaceful fucking sleep. A chuckle escaped Leo's lips, his laughter filled with a hint of cynicism. Ha ha ha. If you actually believe that, then you're not only lying to me but also to yourself. The fire in your eyes, the refusal to give up. It's evident in every move you make. You yearn to win. Ha ha. With a resigned sigh, Lucas came to the realization that arguing any further with this battle maniac would be pointless. Accepting the situation and ignoring the redhead's words, he focused his thoughts on his mana core. In an instant, a surge of mana emanated from Lucas's body, flowing outward in a brilliant azure hue. As the mana expanded, it coalesced and began to swirl around the tip of his spear. Mana burst, Lucas yelled, his voice resolute. Two small azure explosions went off beneath his feet, propelling him forward with incredible velocity, akin to a bullet shooting straight. In a sudden burst of speed, Lucas appeared right before Leo in the blink of an eye, his spear poised for an aggressive thrust. "So, you weren't lying," Leo remarked, his eyebrows arching in genuine admiration. "That's really the 16-movement lance style, blossom-shattering blast." As soon as he said that, Leo swiftly raised his sword, intercepting Lucas's spear mid-thrust. With a deft maneuver, he skillfully altered the direction of the spear, forcing it to veer to the left. Thrugh! As Lucas' spear struck the ground, Leo was effectively able to disarm the silver-haired spearman momentarily. At that moment, a hint of disappointment tinged Leo's voice as he capitalized on the opening. "But charging in blindly against me was a bad decision. I expected better from a Morningstar," he remarked, his tone laced with a touch of taunting. In the next moment, Leo quickly stepped in, intending to seize this opportunity and bring this spar to a decisive conclusion. However, to Leo's surprise, a mischievous smirk formed on Lucas's face. Perplexed by his sudden change in demeanor, Leo hesitated for a fraction of a second, questioning the meaning behind that expression. In that fleeting moment, Lucas flicked his left wrist twice, and a hidden blade sprung forth from a concealed compartment under his sleeve. Lucas wasted no time and swiftly swung his bladed hand directly towards Leo's face. Caught off guard, Leo's eyes widened in astonishment and realization. A hidden blade?" Leo exclaimed, his surprise evident. At that moment, the puzzle pieces fell into place. Lucas didn't charge blindly. No, he had a plan in motion. Lucas had intentionally baited Leo into blocking or parrying his attack, leaving himself intentionally vulnerable. It was a calculated maneuver designed to make Leo drop his guard and close the distance, trapping him in a false sense of security. Lucas had one final blow in mind, waiting for the opportune moment to unleash the hidden blade concealed within his sleeve. Swisher! Unfortunately for Lucas, he was up against the one known as the God of War. Leo never dropped his guard. He was ready, reacting with lightning speed. Leo swiftly ducked, allowing Lucas' hidden blade to sail harmlessly over his head, missing its mark and cutting through nothing but air. From his low position, Leo spun on one foot, using the other to execute a sweeping motion that aimed to knock Lucas off his feet. Caught off balance by Leo's swift and skillful leg sweep, Lucas stumbled and lost his footing, ultimately falling to the ground. Eek! By the time Lucas fell, Leo was already on his feet. The tip of his katana found its mark, pressed firmly against the young Morningstar's throat. Arghh! Lucas clenched his jaw, his teeth grinding together in frustration. Leo, raising an eyebrow, wore a taunting smile. "You claim not to desire victory, yet your expression tells a different story," he remarked. Lucas felt a surge of anger at the sight of that smile, his blood boiling with intensity. "Oh, if only looks could kill." Leo released a dry chuckle, sheathing his blade and taking several steps back. "Get back on your feet," he beckoned. Lucas, his frustration evident on his face, grasped his spear on the ground and rose up. "No more strategic plays this time," Leo declared, drawing his katana once more. "You have got one shot, come at me with everything you've got." Hearing Leo's words, Lucas tightened his grip on his spear and assumed a lower stance, bending his knees slightly. With a swift motion, he pulled back his weapon and settled into a sword-drawing stance. Leo felt the scar on his face throb as he witnessed Lucas employing a weapon art he was very familiar with. There it is, he thought, a mix of recognition and apprehension washing over him. No doubt about it, that is definitely Dawnbreaker. As Leo observed Lucas, a flicker of Morningstar's silhouette flashed in his mind. Taking a deep breath, Leo cleared his mind and pulled back his own weapon, infusing his blade with a surge of mana, causing it to radiate a vibrant azure glow. Leo bellowed, "Come, Fwooshaw!" Fwooshaw! Both warriors launched forward, their weapons ready to strike with lethal intent. This wasn't a spar anymore, this was a clash. Lucas, after coming close enough with Leo, unleashed a powerful horizontal slash with the blade of his spear. He exerted all his weight at the end of the spear's shaft while channeling every drop of mana he possessed into the blade. The air crackled with the energy around the blade of Lucas' spear as the force behind his attack surged forward. Swooshaw, huh? But to Lucas's disbelief, as soon as his spear made contact with Leo's body, his body dissipated like a puff of smoke, vanishing into thin air. In its place, to Lucas's utter bewilderment, a multitude of Leo figures manifested all around him, approximately 20 in number. What the actual fuck? As each Leo charged at Lucas, he unleashed a relentless fury of spear thrusts against any figure that approached. With every successful strike of his spear, the illusionary Leos dissipated into nothingness, vanishing like wisps of smoke. "These aren't real," Lucas thought out loud, his voice echoing in the midst of the intense battle. Somewhere among them, his true body must be hidden, searching for me. At that very moment, a whisper brushed against Lucas's ear, sending a shiver down his spine. Before he could fully react, he felt someone coming behind him. By the time he turned, Lucas saw a fist speeding toward his face at breakneck speed. Resigning, he dropped his shoulders in the face of inevitable defeat. "Fuck me, thwacka!" Ha. Gasping for breath, I collapsed onto the ground, defeated and exhausted, my gaze fixated on the ceiling of the training hall as my mind constantly replayed the intense spar I had just experienced. My nose throbbed, and blood trickled down. Maybe it was broken, yet, despite the physical discomfort, my mind remained preoccupied elsewhere, lost in its own thoughts and reflections. This won't cut it. I am nowhere near strong enough. At this rate, I will not survive the second arc of the main story. The problem isn't that I didn't have stronger weapon arts or more cheat relics. No, it's just that my battle prowess is simply laughable. I know how to use some weapon arts, but I don't know how to fight without them. I create too many unnecessary movements, make some very bad decisions and stuff like that. It's clear that I need to refine my fighting style and develop a better understanding of tactical choices regarding live combat. While I can manage to overpower an average cadet if I give it my all, it's clear that being above average is not sufficient, because as I said, the challenges awaiting me in the second arc will be formidable, and if I want to ensure my survival, I must get stronger, and I need to do it fast. But how will I do that? While lost in thought, a voice suddenly exclaimed and interrupted me. "Nice try, you actually surprised me. Oh, your nose is bleeding, are you alright?" Leo appeared over my head, upside down in my vision, his eyes widened slightly in concern and surprise. "I'm fine," I replied, sitting back straight before getting up. Although standing up hurt, I didn't let it show on my face. "If we're done here, I'll get going." Just as I was about to exit the training hall after picking up my spear, Leo's voice stopped me. "Wait a second," he called out, his tone urging me to halt. I turned back to face him, curious about what he had to say but still frustrated enough, maybe with myself, to roll my eyes. I couldn't help but notice one thing. Leo began, his eyes searching mine. "There is more to you than what meets the eye. I see potential, but I also sense great hesitation within you. What are you, a Jedi Master?" is what shot through my mind, but I stayed silent and continued to listen. "It feels like you think too much before and after making a move," he explained. "I can see why they call you a genius. They don't anymore," I interjected, but Leo continued on. "But because you think too much, you make many mistakes while fighting. You make too many unnecessary movements, waste too much mana, and make bad decisions overall. Oh, and you think I'm not aware of that? So what should I do? I asked, close off my mind and fight on my instincts like a fucking savage? A troubling expression washed over Leo's face before he simply shrugged his shoulders. What does that mean? I snapped, confused by his reaction. The troubling expression on Leo's face deepened as he stared into my eyes. He then averted his gaze for a moment before quickly looking back at me with a deep sigh. Let me ask you one thing, Leo said. Do you broken bar hate your father, for what he did to you? I mean, huh? What kind of question is that? Yeah, broken bar. I wanted to say I don't hate him. After all, I am not really Lucas, am I? I have no reason to hate Reynold. Nevertheless, vivid memories of Lucas' childhood flashed in my mind. I recalled the lonely nights when he would be confined to his room alone while his family would have family dinner down in the hall. I remembered the heart-wrenching occasion when he celebrated his own birthday in solitude, singing happy birthday to himself while his family held a grand feast for his twin brother's birthday. I remembered how he cried himself to sleep after getting bullied throughout the day by his brother while his father chose to turn a blind eye to him. Why did he do that? Family is everything. He taught that to Lucas. So then, why did he go back on his words and shun Lucas, stripping him of his love and attention when Lucas needed him the most? Why did he abandon him? Throughout Lucas' entire childhood, Reynold treated him as his designated successor, and for Lucas, earning his father's pride became the paramount objective of his existence. Thus, when Lucas awakened an average potential, which his father regarded as trash, and subsequently began avoiding him, it inflicted immense pain upon him. He lost his sense of purpose, enduring a severe existential crisis at such a tender age proved to be a difficult ordeal for Lucas. He attempted to cope and desperately sought to regain his father's attention. However, by then, Reynold was busy nurturing Adele, the next heir of the Morningstar house and his chosen successor. Just like that, in an instant, Lucas was cast aside and replaced. This shattered him completely. Having personally experienced all those emotions as if I had lived that life myself, it would be a lie to say that I don't harbor some feelings of resentment toward Reynold. However, I find myself lacking the fervor to hate him wholeheartedly. Why? Because as I mentioned earlier, I am not truly Lucas. I find myself indifferent towards his actions. I don't care what happened in the past. I have bigger things to worry about, like stopping the destruction of this fucking world, for starters. Moreover, I recall someone once stating that the opposite of love is not hate but rather indifference, and that sentiment resonates with me. If someone hurts you, just walk off. Your indifference will crush their ego more than your hate ever could. I don't hate him, I replied. In fact, I don't even care about him. In his eyes, his son may have died, but in my heart, my father has, and why would I hate a dead person? For a few seconds, Leo stared at me blankly without uttering a single word. After a long moment of silence, he nodded his head. Okay, it's good enough, he said, still nodding his head. Let me ask you one last question now, Lucas. Would you like to be my disciple and learn from me? Pardon? Your what? You heard me. Did I hear him correctly? He wants me to be his disciple? Damn, what the hell? In that brief moment, my mind raced through numerous possibilities as I argued and reasoned with myself 1,000 times over. My initial thoughts were that he must be joking. Leo Kurogami, one of the most indifferent characters of the story, asked me to be his disciple. Me? Lucas Morningstar? Perhaps it was just his dry sense of humor once again. However, as I stared into his eyes, I could sense that he was telling the truth. No, he was genuinely serious about it, and so began a lengthy succession of arguments and reasoning that I engaged in with myself in my head. Should I decline? I probably should, right? I mean, I made a conscious decision to minimize my interactions with a separatist like Leo. It would be best to reject his offer. However, if my rejection damages his ego and he responds by exposing that footage to the Cadet Council, what then? Dealing with Yelena after she discovers that I can use the first step of Dawnbreaker would be a major hassle. If there's a chance to avoid that outcome altogether, I'd prefer to take it. I guess I could always anonymously tip off the central government and tell them about Leo's affiliation with the Spider organization if he dares to threaten me, although since that would change the story too much, I can only use it as a last resort. Now, one would ask why I am hesitating to change the plot when it's only going to benefit me in the end. You see, Leo played a significant role and was one of the catalysts for the War of Union, a civil war between the central government and Spider that occurred just before the final struggle of the vampire race. I won't dive into much detail, but the War of Union is important. It's an event that I absolutely shouldn't remove from the plot. The War of Union must remain in the plot, as its occurrence is crucial for us to have a fighting chance against the vampires. An ending where we lose against the vampires and ultimately against the Callous is something I definitely want to avoid. Now, getting back to the main point, I should decline Leo's offer and distance myself from him. Leo met a gruesome end during the War of the Union while battling against Nero. If I were to align myself with him, it would lead to the same fate for me. However, what if I were to accept his proposal? On the other hand, if I were to accept Leo Kurogami as my master, he would teach me everything he knows and provide me access to rare and valuable weapon art manuals. Additionally, receiving personalized training from him would help me become stronger at a faster pace, and when the time for the War of Union finally arrives, I would have exploited him for everything he has to offer. Eventually, I would betray him and present him to the central government, thereby gaining their trust. Indeed, it's a perfect plan, filled with its own share of risks, of course. However, I'm prepared to take a chance. After all, I have two distinct talents that I have honed throughout my previous life, the art of lying and the thrill of gambling. With carefully crafted lies and calculated bets, I can definitely do this. After coming to this conclusion while going through all that in my head, I finally agreed to take Leo up on his proposal. However, I decided to play it cool. But sensei, my mana core potential rank is merely gold 3. Are you really sure you want me as your disciple? I said, arching an eyebrow. Do you know what my mana core rank is? Leo crossed his arms before answering his own question. Platinum 1. WH what? I exclaimed in shock. Leo's mana core rank was never mentioned in the novel, but since he was such a great warrior, I assumed it to be very high. But his rank is only one tier above my own potential ranking. Shocking, isn't it? His voice carried a hint of pride as he declared, "It seems the heavens compensated for my low mana core potential by bestowing upon me extraordinary martial arts abilities." After a brief pause, he continued, "I can see that you have a similar talent, but it's going to waste. However, if you choose to train with me, I assure you that you can ascend to become one of the mightiest warriors of your generation." My lips opened and closed up a few times, struggling to form a coherent response. I see, I finally managed to utter, my voice barely a whisper. In truth, I was at a loss for words. Having a large reserve of mana, meaning a higher-ranked mana core, greatly enhances the effectiveness of one's usage in martial arts. After all, a surplus of mana directly equals increased strength. Basically, the more mana you have, the more powerful you are. To close the gap created by mana, one must possess either an extraordinary gift or a heaven-defying talent for martial arts. However, even after all that, there is no guarantee that individuals will reach the level achieved by those with a high-ranking mana core. But Leo here did it anyway, even with a merely above-average potential. He became one of the most feared names in today's world, and he's saying I have the potential to do that too? No, since I'm going to break my potential cap soon, doesn't that mean I have the potential to surpass Leo? So, what's your answer? When Leo repeated his question, I had no reason to say number. I had already decided on my plan. It would be very foolish of me not to make the best of this opportunity that presented itself. Yes, I finally answered, performing a respectful short bow. It would be my honor to learn from you, Leo-sensei. Hearing my response, Leo nodded his head affirmatively. Good, he replied. From here on out, you shall address me as master, even during the class. If you ever have any problems, come to me for assistance. However, do not mistake my support as a license to act without accountability, for I will not endorse unjust actions. Understood, master? I nodded my head. A hint of foreign expression flashed in Leo's eyes as I addressed him as master, but swiftly resuming his usual demeanor, he added, all right, for the time being, get to your class. Tomorrow, we shall begin your training. Stay prepared, as I may summon you at any hour, even during the middle of the night. Ha ha ha. Fuck, I thought he was just kidding. He wouldn't actually summon me in the middle of the night, would he? Right? I'll take my leave, I stammered, bowing once more before turning around to depart, while Leo simply nodded in response. But just as I was about to take a few steps, a sudden realization hit me, causing me to halt in my tracks. Master, if you don't mind me asking, where exactly was the security camera that captured that footage? I asked. Leo raised an eyebrow in response. It was a discreet camera hidden within the chandelier in the hall. A hidden camera, of course. How could I overlook something like that? I should have conducted a more thorough search of the banquet hall when I had the chance. By the way, even though I've asked you this before, I'll ask again. The night before the incident, the security camera's batteries were removed by someone from their blind spots. Is there any connection to you? Leo stroked his chin thoughtfully. As I mentioned earlier, it's most likely the work of vampires. I lied effortlessly as my words flowed out naturally. Anyway, it's time for me to attend my class. With that, I swiftly made my way out of the training hall, eager to put some distance between myself and the questioning gaze of Leo. As Leo observed Lucas's figure fading into the distance, a deep sigh escaped his lips. There was definitely something unsettling about that kid. I've really done it, haven't I? Leo mused aloud to himself. Indeed, he had truly taken on a disciple, a decision he never would have envisioned making in his entire life. To be perfectly honest, he himself couldn't understand why he chose Lucas as his disciple. Sure, the boy was definitely talented, maybe as much as himself, if not more, but Leo still couldn't understand what exactly made him want to take him under his wing. The longer Leo gazed upon Lucas, the more he noticed the striking resemblance the young man bore to his parents. Lucas's fair skin, which harmonized with his snowy white hair, brought to mind the soothing presence of Yennefer, his mother. Yet, Lucas' piercing scarlet eyes and lean physique evoked bitter memories he had of Reynold, his father. There was no doubt Lucas was definitely their son, but then why? Why did they push their own son away like that? Why did they abandon him? Why did they do what they did to him? Even though Leo doesn't like Reynold very much now, they were once inseparable. He knows him more than anyone. He knows that Reynold isn't the kind of person to abandon his own son. So then, what changed? He doesn't know. Even if he had to nurture the next head of the Morningstar house, it's no excuse for shunning his other son. Ha! Leo pinched the bridge of his nose, and the image of Reynold flashed in his mind. Damn it, you bastard. Well, whatever, it doesn't matter now. Perhaps he took Lucas as his disciple because he was the son of his former friends, or maybe it was his talent that caught his attention. It could also be that Lucas's circumstances reminded him of his own past. Whatever the reason, one thing was certain, he was now someone's master. Thinking that, Leo couldn't help but let out another sigh. As I made my way out of the training hall, I headed for our homeroom class. I was still a bit shocked. I became Leo Kurogami's disciple. This would solve so many of my problems in the future. The more I thought about it, the more I realized the potential benefits of this connection. Finally, some positive developments were taking place. It had only been 3 days since our departure from Global City for our trip, and we had returned just yesterday. However, it feels like a long time has passed. Hey, look, isn't he from that class? Class 1A1. Yes, such a tragedy. I heard 6 cadets in that class died on their trip, which was supposed to be a reward for them. Truly a tragedy. Even though that guy named Nero Dikrov is in their class, they still suffered so many losses. Continuing on my path, I overheard some whispers among the cadets discussing our trip in hushed tones, while a pang of guilt gnawed at me for not being able to prevent the loss of lives even with my future knowledge. My attention was piqued whenever Nero's name was mentioned. Nero's popularity seemed to be on the rise. This is exactly what happened in their novel following their class's victory in the mock war. If I'm not mistaken, which I'm definitely not, within a week or two, the rumors about Nero would reach the entire world. Moreover, during the King's tournament, Nero will have to employ his gift in front of a huge crowd as he would battle against the vampire soldiers sent to kill him. Following that, the rumors will turn into undeniable facts, and the world will have no choice but to acknowledge Nero's godlike gift. Numerous cults will emerge, worshipping him. His name will become widely known, even among children. Furthermore, there will be individuals who will attempt to end his life in order to possess his extraordinary gift. In all honesty, it would be a drag. I did try to avoid this route. But as always, fate is a bitch. Phew. While indulging in such thoughts, I arrived in front of our homeroom. Okay, let's do it. The second arc officially begins. In conclusion, the reason behind the exclusiveness of the elven language in invoking a magic chant remains unknown to us. According to the elves, the god used a sophisticated variant of the elven language, known as the High Tongue, to bring about the creation of the universe. So essentially, we can say that the entire universe is composed of the elven language, like a computer program, and when we chant to cast magic, we effectively modify the program's code, thereby influencing our reality. That's why the elves hold the belief that they were the first intelligent race of the universe. They also believe that God personally taught their ancestors this language and named it after their race, or perhaps their race was named after the language. We don't really know for sure since, after all, it's nothing but a legend. We also have no way to confirm this legend since the elves were driven out of their homes by the race known as the demons. Regardless of the authenticity of the legend, one important point to note is that the Kalis lack the ability to cast spells due to their unfamiliarity with the elven language. Additionally, they are also unable to use runes and perform hand signs since both practices are derived from the elven language too. Right at the clock struck 7 o'clock a.m., our homeroom instructor, Liz Snyder, arrived promptly and started her lecture without so much as acknowledging the fallen ones. It was as if their absence meant nothing. The 6 vacant seats of the cadets who tragically lost their lives yesterday meant nothing at all. The atmosphere in the classroom was suffocatingly quiet, filled with a mix of horror, disturbance, and a general sense of sorrow. No one seemed capable of diverting their attention from the heavy weight that hung in the air, rendering Liz's words irrelevant to the somber minds of the cadets. Mom, in the midst of the heavy atmosphere, there were a few cadets who managed to maintain their composure, and I happened to be one of them. So when someone raised his hand to seek clarification, my gaze instinctively shifted toward him. It was Hugh Jass, and so yes, Liz noticed Hugh and gestured with her chin for him to proceed with his question. We've observed, as you mentioned once, the striking resemblance between High Elven and the Latin language. Why is that? After all, Latin has existed on Earth for thousands of years, while our contact with the elves dates back only to a little over 7 centuries ago. Hugh inquired. Excellent question, Mr. Jass. However, we don't know the answer to that. Scholars have been tirelessly searching for an explanation, but the reasoning they have put forth is a stop. Just fucking stop it. Just as Liz was in the middle of answering Hugh's question, a sudden outburst cut through the air, startling everyone in the classroom. Everyone whipped their heads toward the source of the noise and found the person responsible for the outcry to be Chase. Mr. Woods, is there a problem? Liz tried to confront Chase, but the latter started yelling again. Yes, there is a fucking problem. How can you simply resume your class like those cadets who lost their lives yesterday meant nothing? Show some respect and at least acknowledge their absence. Chase's voice reverberated with frustration and anger. Silence filled the air as the cadets started between Chase and Liz. They all had the same thing on their minds, but none of them had the guts to stand up and speak about it like that. After a few moments, Liz cocked her head slightly. "And what will that do? What do you mean by that? Are you implying?" "I'm implying that it doesn't make a difference. I do feel immense sorrow for those who are no longer among us today. They were children. Their untimely and unexpected deaths were deeply unfair. However, what purpose would it serve for me to display the grief I feel? Will shedding my tears magically resurrect them? If that is the case, then I am willing to weep an ocean or deliver a mournful speech in their honor." The classroom once again descended into a heavy silence. A sense of uncertainty and unease permeated the air. It was an undeniable truth. As cadets and soon-to-be soldiers, we understood that mourning was a luxury we couldn't afford. Every instructor told us that the first day we came to this academy. Moreover, I knew the harsh reality that more tragedies awaited us in the future. In that sense, I could relate to Liz's perspective more or less. I know she must be sad about those 6 cadets too. However, I also understood that shedding tears alone wouldn't miraculously restore what was taken away. Hearing her answer, a conflicted look appeared in Chase's eyes. He averted his gaze to look away. "Tinga!" Before any further words could be exchanged, the resounding ring of the class bell echoed throughout the room, indicating the conclusion of the lecture. Well then, it's time for your combat art class. Proceed to the training grounds in an organized manner," Liz directed. "Thank you for today's class." With nods of acknowledgement, everyone rose from their seats, performing a brief bow while saying their greetings to Liz. Storing my notebook, which was filled with rough work and doodles, and pen back in my smart bracelet, I too started heading for the class exit. Lucas Morningstar, Nero Dikrov, and Anastasia Begod, please wait back. I have something to discuss with you 3. As we were making our way out, Liz called our names and asked us to stay back. I let out a sigh, knowing what was going to happen. Anastasia, Nero, and I approached Liz, who was meticulously stacking papers by tapping them on the table. Once she finished, she settled back into her seat and glanced in our direction. When her captivating amethyst eyes locked with mine, I had to hold my breath. They were profound, akin to an endless abyss capable of consuming one's very soul. Feeling a sense of unease and even danger, I quickly averted my gaze, realizing it was unwise to linger in her gaze for too long. No, I wasn't simping, by the way. I didn't mean it in any romantic or perverted way, although, to be honest, she was very hot. I really felt something off by looking into her eyes. Perhaps it was because she had an affinity for darkness while I had an affinity for the light element. As I've mentioned before, people with opposing affinities often experience a certain disquietude in each other's presence. Anyway, Liz shifted her attention to Anastasia, who was standing next to me, fixating her intense gaze on her before finally looking at Nero. "I've heard you guys were the ones who took down that vampire?" Liz stated in a questioning tone. In acknowledgement, we nodded our heads in confirmation. Liz then shifted her focus to me, her gaze filled with curiosity. "And you were the one who delivered the final blows to that and the other one," she remarked. "It was a team effort, but yes," I responded in a polite tone. Liz looked at me for a few seconds without saying anything. I know what she must be thinking. It's what they all think whenever I do anything out of character. He is different from the rumors. Naturally, the rumors had painted me as a malevolent young master, which I am obviously not. So after a few seconds of silence, Liz let out a sigh and said, "You geese did well. By successfully containing and eliminating those vampires before they could wreak havoc on the streets, you saved countless lives." Her words carried a genuine appreciation for the gravity of our accomplishment. However, her tone soon shifted as she continued speaking, her voice now tinged with concern and anger. "However," she began, "what you all did was also risky. I know that you were left with no choice but to engage in combat, but perhaps the wiser course of action would have been to prioritize survival until the military police could intervene instead of winning by fighting head-on." "I understand, Master." Butanero began to express his thoughts, but I interjected. "Initially, my plan was exactly what you suggested," I explained. but Cadet Chase would prioritize his personal matters with me over our survival and refused to follow my suggestion. Additionally, third-year Cadet Drake exerted his authority and also chose not to act on my plan. These acts of insubordination forced us into a situation where direct confrontation became our only option. Liz responded with a sigh, her hand gently rubbing her forehead in exasperation. I see, she said. Allowing personal matters to jeopardize everyone's safety was wrong on Chase's part. I will see to it that he gets punished appropriately. And as for Drake, I don't think he was in the wrong. As the highest-ranking cadet present there, it's understandable that he wanted to take on the leadership role. Plus, he has already lost his arm, so that's enough for him. I nodded in agreement with my hands behind my back, a subtle smile playing at the corners of my lips. Inside, a rush of satisfaction filled me. Even if I couldn't get Drake punished, I could still screw over Chase. That's what you get for messing with me during the entirety of our trip, you bastard. A side character like him should have known his place. Anyway, Liz said, bringing us back to the point, what I wanted to inform the three of you is that you will be receiving medals of honor. One of the 12 members of the central government will be visiting our academy to attend the King's tournament and will present the medals to you. A member of the central government? Anastasia exclaimed in surprise before stealing a glance at Nero. Curiosity piqued. I did the same and turned my gaze toward Nero, but his face remained devoid of any expressions. There is 1 in a 12 chance that the person who would come to present us with the medals of honor could be Nero's father. Of course, I knew that would definitely be the case. Yes, Liz affirmed with a nod. The three of you will be required to write comprehensive reports detailing the incident, providing a thorough account of the events that transpired in the banquet hall and how you handled the situation. Will the rest of the class also be tasked with writing reports? Anastasia sought clarification. Liz responded, indeed. However, the higher-ups are particularly interested in reviewing the reports from the three of you, so ensure your accounts are highly detailed to avoid further questioning. Understood, we chimed in unison, acknowledging Liz's instructions. She nodded in approval. She then let out a sigh before cautioning us, remember, you were able to defeat those vampires because they were not frontline warriors. Our intel claimed that one of them was an assassin while the other was a spy. We have reasons to believe that they were on some kind of a mission here. If you ever come across a vampire knight, soldier, or noble, your best course of action is to flee and avoid engaging them. I knew Liz was right, and it was likely that Nero and Anastasia understood it too. Mercy and Magnus weren't seasoned soldiers. Mercy, if her story was true, had some background as a former soldier, but she mentioned that she wasn't at her full strength after facing my father years ago. And Magnus, well, he was an assassin, so he shouldn't have been accustomed to direct confrontations, yet, they proved to be formidable adversaries. They claimed the lives of 6 of our fellow cadets and even almost killed us too. If Magnus had chosen to prioritize escape rather than deciding to try and kill us after we had killed Mercy, we might not have been able to eliminate him either. Anyway, you all are dismissed. Proceed to your class, Liz declared. Yes, Mom, in unison, we responded, hands respectfully placed behind our backs. With synchronized movements, we turned around and made our way out of the classroom. As I walked down the hallway, heading towards the stairs, I let out a sigh and activated my smart bracelet. I wanted to search for guidance on how to write an event report, as I had never done so in either of my lives. However, before I could even launch the search engine, Nero's voice reached my ears. That wasn't good, Lucas, he remarked. I turned around to face him and Anastasia, who were both walking closely behind me. What do you mean? The way you betrayed Chase, Anastasia replied on behalf of Nero, her tone tinged with reproach. Hey, I frowned in response. You know very well that he had a personal vendetta against me throughout the entire trip, and he still does, right? Nero hesitated for a moment, seemingly at a loss for words. He decided to change the subject instead. Anyway, I have to admit you displayed remarkable prowess during the battle. I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? The thick smoke and darkness made it difficult to see anything, and you still fought exceptionally well, Nero acknowledged. It exceeded my expectations. Were you using a relic to see through the darkness and smoke? Anastasia, already aware of the answer, inquired further. Yes, I confirmed. I had a relic prepared, just in case, and it came in handy. I see. Anastasia stroked her chin before questioning. By the way, Lucas, aren't you an archer? Yes. Why do you ask? I asked. What weapon did you use to kill the vampire? I saw a large amount of mana swirling around a weapon in your hand, which I could only make out to be a spear before Anastasia could finish. I cut her off. Wait, you saw a large amount of mana? You're telling me that you can see mana? Anastasia hesitated for a moment, her tone flustered as she tried to hide her slip-up. No, when did I say that? You didn't. Nero frowned, thinking he too heard her wrong. What a gullible protagonist. Anastasia quickly denied. No, I never said anything like that. I see. I shrugged, accepting her denial without further questioning. By the way, Nero interjected, why aren't we taking the lift? I stopped and turned around to look at the protagonist with blank eyes. There's a lift? Why have I been running up and down so many flights of stairs every day if this academy had a lift? No, come to think of it, of course, it should have a lift. It's one of the most high-tech academies in the world, so that's why every time I would turn up for class, I was the only one drowned in sweat and out of breath while everyone else would be perfectly fine. I thought only I was like that because I had weak stamina compared to everyone else. Arghh, damn it. So after finding out that I'm actually stupid and there was a lift that could have taken me directly from the ground floor to my class floor and vice versa, I made it to the training grounds along with Nero and Anastasia. Instructor Matterhorn, our combat art instructor, oversaw our training session. Today we were asked to engage in sparring matches with combat dolls. Combat dolls, constructed from super-reinforced steel, are essentially robots designed for combat purposes. Their immense strength and programmed martial arts abilities actually make them formidable opponents to spar with. Interesting fact, these advanced droids are utilized by the military as well. The versions they use are further enhanced by magical runes and equipped with all types of weaponry. However, the deployment of combat dolls carries inherent risks. After all, to get them out, one only needs to eliminate the single person operating them from the headquarters. Killing the remote pilot would turn hundreds and thousands of those combat dolls offline mid-battle, not to mention besides the vulnerability they possess in requiring human operators. It is crucial that the person entrusted with handling the droids be highly trustworthy as well. Anyway, since we arrived late to class, Instructor Matterhorn ordered the three of us to run 10 laps around the campus. Initially, I thought he was kidding, but then it dawned on me that he was actually insane, so it was unlikely to be a joke. And indeed, it wasn't a joke. We were genuinely expected to run 10 laps around this ginormous campus. It would easily take us the entire class period just to barely complete 10 laps around campus as huge as ours, and as if that wasn't enough, we were also expected to spar with the dolls afterwards. I swear to God, if there's really one out there, that I'll one day give this guy a death so brutal that he would beg me to be killed. After mentally cursing him a few more times and then a few more times again, I reluctantly started jogging, determined to finish the 10 laps as quickly as possible. It took me approximately 50 grueling minutes to complete mere 5 laps. With 10 minutes left for the class period to end and I being on the verge of collapse, Instructor Matterhorn took pity on me and signaled for me to stop. You should strive to be more like your classmates, he commented, pointing towards Anastasia and Nero. Let me tell you, those two are absolute beasts. They are actual monsters, I say. They both finished the 10 laps around the campus in less than 30 minutes, and if that wasn't enough, they quickly went on to spar against the combat dolls without even taking a break. I'm not slow and weak, they are just monsters. I bet if I was in the body of the protagonist, I could have done the same. Ha ha, but for now, Here I am, laying back flat on the concrete ground while staring up at the cloudless, blue as hell sky and panting like some asthma patient. Around me, other cadets engaged in their own sparring matches against the combat dolls. Some celebrated their victories while some lay on the ground like me in defeat. Some, on the other hand, still continued to fight. The cacophony of sounds, labored breaths, clashes, and assorted noises seemed to be giving me a headache as blood pumped violently in my veins. I was tired. I woke up early this morning. I just wanted to sleep, but I need to start sparring too. Should I just lay here and act dead for 10 minutes until this class ends? Hey, I came from the hospital to see you, but it looks like you were already on your way to go there. Suddenly a voice pierced through my ears, which were muffled by the deafening thumping of my own heartbeat. Following it, a blue-haired elven boy leaned over me, peering down as I lay on the ground. Kent, I gasped, my breath still heavy. If I die, clear my search history and avenge me a broken bar. Okay, Kent replied, rolling his eyes, and he reached out, firmly gripping my hand to help me rise to my feet. Arghh, I groaned as I reluctantly exerted my exhausted muscles. Quit being such a drama queen, he chided playfully. Run 5 laps around the campus and then say that, I retorted. By the way, weren't you supposed to be at the hospital? Are you discharged? My gaze shifted towards Kent's previously injured shoulder. Even though I gave him my healing potion when I found him injured, it wasn't very effective against an injury inflicted by a vampire's claw infused with dark magic. So upon our return to the global city, Kent, along with other wounded cadets, were promptly taken to the hospital for professional medical care, and looking at his shoulder now, it appeared normal, indicating a swift recovery on his part. Notably, he wasn't wearing his academy uniform, so maybe he had come straight here after being discharged. Well, yes, I was discharged a few minutes ago, Kent replied. I came straight here after that. So, what did I miss? Just the first and second period. I waved my hand dismissively before coming to a much more important topic. By the way, did you know we had an elevator in this academy? Lucas, each academy building is more than 20 stories tall. Of course, there would be an elevator. In fact, there are 5. Don't tell me you didn't know that. Why didn't you tell me before? We took the stairs every time we walked together to the class. I thought you were working on your stamina. Fuck. Kent patted my back with a look full of pity in his eyes. It's okay, buddy, it's okay. Oh, you too. Instead of chit-chatting, get to training. From the other side of the field, Instructor Matterhorn yelled at us. Kent waved his hand and gestured towards his recently healed shoulder. Sorry, I can't participate. The doctors advised me to take a day of rest. Instructor Matterhorn acknowledged his explanation with a nod, then redirected his focus towards me. Alright, then you start sparring. You have already wasted most of this class period anyway. He commanded, pointing directly at me. I have wasted? It was you who ordered me to run those 10 damn laps around the campus. Shaking my head in exasperation, I let out a sigh. Fine, Kent, power up that combat doll and step aside. Before me stood a humanoid robot. Kent walked up to it, pressed a button on its back, and took a few steps back. The robot's eyes illuminated with a vibrant green light as it scanned its surroundings, ultimately marking me, who was standing right in front of it, as its target. Phew! I exhaled deeply, allowing my racing heart to gradually calm down. The overwhelming exhaustion subsided momentarily as I focused on circulating the mana inside my body. Swisher! The combat doll launched in my direction and appeared right before me in an instant. It struck out its hand, throwing it deadly straight at my face. I sidestepped to my left and dodged its attack before quickly retaliating with a rapid and precise punch, aiming directly at the doll's ribcage. Thwacker! But it was a trap. The doll's arm suddenly contorted, transforming into a devastating elbow strike aimed at the side of my face. Before I could fully comprehend the unfolding danger, the impact crashed against my cheek, sending me staggering backwards. Thucker exclamation mark. Seizing the opportunity, the combat doll delivered a low kick aimed at my dominant leg, causing me to crash to the ground, my weight supported by a single knee. Arghh! I groaned through clenched teeth before channeling mana into my right hand. In a split second, the robot charged at me, but I was prepared. Thwacker exclamation mark. Utilizing its own momentum against it, I unleashed a powerful thrust, aiming my palm at its midsection and forcefully pushing it back. The impact staggered the doll, causing it to momentarily buckle under the force. Using this moment to swiftly rise from my kneeling position, I dashed toward the doll. Quickly, I grabbed the doll's waist in a reverse bear hug, my arms tightly wrapped around its body. Thwama exclamation mark. With a fluid motion, I lifted the doll up, arching my back, and executed a flawless German suplex, forcefully slamming its back onto the concrete surface below. Fine, yes, I copied Anastasia, okay, but it's not like she patented that move or anything. Moving on. Even though it was painful for me to fall down too, I infused my legs with mana, fortifying them, and swiftly propelled myself back onto my feet. The combat doll was still in the midst of getting back up, hunched over with its hands on the ground for support. I used this chance to surge forward once again and jumped over its head before a broken bar. Thwama exclamation mark. Delivering it a brutal curb stomp and mercilessly driving its head into the concrete ground, crushing its skull. It took me a few steps to nullify the momentum of my forward rush before I landed firmly on the ground. I struggled to catch my breath, and I slightly bent, my hands on my knees and sweat covering my forehead. Nice, Kent exclaimed. That was good, bro. Where did you learn to suplex like that? I taught myself, averting my gaze. I answered, pass me a water bottle. Just as I was about to ask Kent for a bottle of water, a booming voice echoed throughout the training grounds. Lucas Morningstar. Startled, everyone present looked for the source of the voice. I was the same, especially since my name was called, but as I laid eyes upon the figure who was the owner of the voice, a frown etched itself onto my face before quickly morphing into a mischievous grin. Hey, I scoffed, a hint of anticipation in my voice. He's finally making his move. A young man strode across the training ground, his shoulder-length black hair cascading down and shimmering with a light shade of dark violet under the sun. His authoritative aura and a gaze filled with superiority compelled the crowd to step aside, clearing a path for him as he made his way forward. As he moved forward, his unbuttoned black blazer, along with a red tie over a black shirt to the standard academic uniform, swayed rhythmically. With each step that he took, his teal-blue eyes fluttered across the training field in search of his intended target. Trailing closely behind him was a group of cadets, around 20 in number, each exuding a similar air of authority, albeit less intimidating than the young man leading the way. Hey, isn't that Kai Wiseman? Look at those teal-blue eyes. That's definitely a Wiseman, alright. I've heard Wisemans are renowned for their intelligence. They say a great war tactician emerges in their family with each passing generation. Yeah, didn't his father expose the Nettoive family's involvement in those terrorist activities? Yes, indeed. Now because of that, the central government has lost faith in the Nettoive household and is contemplating appointing the Wisemans as the new royal family of the South in their stead. Wow, so he's not only of noble birth but also about to become royalty, but can the central government actually strip a family of their royal status? Of course, you idiot. The status of a royal house is a hereditary governmental title granted by the central government. The Morningstars, Wrights, Nettoive, and Vermeer from Lissa, they all received their royal titles directly from the central government ages ago, and since they hold the power to bestow such titles, it's only natural that they retain the authority to revoke them. Unfazed by the murmurs emanating from the surrounding crowd, the young man continued his stride until his piercing gaze locked onto his intended target, a Lucas Morningstar. Upon reaching in front of Lucas, Kai abruptly came to a halt, causing the cadets trailing behind him to also pause in unison. He scrutinized Lucas up and down, Despite Lucas' disheveled state, had drenched in sweat and wearing a PE uniform which was muddy from laying on the ground earlier, Arghh refrained from commenting on his appearance. Instead, he asked a single question even though he already knew the answer to the query he posed. "Are you a broken bar Lucas Morningstar?" Lucas had long since put on a mask and carefully concealed his true emotions and intentions. Taking on a different persona, he began to act like a coward. Why yes, I am Lucas," he stammered, his voice quivering with nervousness. Casting a sneaky glance, Lucas subtly looked behind Kai and caught sight of Quinn and Grace, who had quietly joined the ranks of cadets behind the Wiseman heir. That they stood, the young elites, a group of esteemed heirs and descendants from prominent noble and influential families across the world. While not all of them, like Quinn and Alberto, held noble lineage now or since birth, their exceptional strength was more than enough for Kai to disregard their heritage and social status. However, on the surface, Quinn distanced himself from any association with the young elites. Kai instructed him to act as though he was casually spending time with the group out of sheer boredom. When Quinn shared this revelation with Lucas, a wave of suspicion washed over him. He felt like it was as if Kai wanted to follow the plot of the novel, a plot that he shouldn't even be aware of. Hey! Just as Kai was on the verge of delving into further inquiries with Lucas, Instructor Matterhorn's booming voice reverberated across the field. With quick steps, he arrived by the side of the group and yelled, "What are you all here? This isn't your class." Kai pivoted to face the tall and imposing figure of Instructor Matterhorn, offering him a seemingly polite smile. "Nor is it yours," he said in a tone laced with condescension, betraying the amicable smile on his face. "What do you mean?" Before Instructor Matterhorn could retort, the resonating sound of the class bell chimed twice, coming from every speaker scattered throughout the academy. "To ring, to ring!" "I mean that you should get going," Kai stated, a flicker of annoyance evident in his words, successfully riling up Instructor Matterhorn. Nevertheless, Instructor Matterhorn had no choice but to clench his jaw and walk off. After all, it was a rule of the academy that instructors and professors couldn't intervene in the matters of the cadets unless it was interfering with their class or a life-or-death situation. "You all should move along too." It was Alberto's commanding voice that suddenly pierced through the air, aimed at the surrounding crowd. His assertive tone compelled them to heed his words, prompting them to scatter and gradually walk away from the scene. A few individuals couldn't help but steal glances over their shoulders as they walked away, curious about what Kai wanted from Lucas. Amidst those who walked off, two cadets chose to stay behind Kent, steadfastly by Lucas's side, and Nero, standing a little further away. Alberto, like an agitated dog, bared his teeth in annoyance when he observed Nero's refusal to budge despite his earlier directive for everyone to disperse. However, noticing that Kai didn't seem to be minding his presence, Alberto refrained from voicing his frustrations. Finally shifting his focus to the silver-haired boy before him, Kai directed his attention squarely at Lucas. "Kyuk!" Suddenly, Lucas felt like a car had fallen on him. It was Kai's mana pressure that he had forced onto the silver-haired boy to assert dominance, and it was working. Lucas almost fell to his knees, but he quickly channeled mana into his knees to keep him on his feet. Despite Lucas's evident trouble to even stand straight properly, Kai proceeded to pose his question with a composed demeanor and expected him to answer. "I'll ask you this once," Kai began, his voice measured. "Were you the one who fought against Quinn during the mock war?" Against Quinn?" Lucas exclaimed, his voice laced with genuine shock as his eyes widened. "I would be out of my mind to engage in a fight with someone of his caliber. You must have seen Quinn leaving his assigned position on the map, right?" Kai pressed forward with a rhetorical question, his tone unwavering. "Where were you during that moment?" "In the control room, stationed at our makeshift headquarters," Lucas retorted, his teeth clenched as he fought to maintain his composure. "Liar!" Kai's roar filled the air, increasing the intensity of his mana pressure and leaving Lucas in excruciating agony. Arghh! His shoulders and knees felt as if they were being crushed, causing him to emit a pain groan. He channeled more mana into his legs in a desperate attempt to not fall flat face on the ground. "Hey, stop it!" Kent's voice erupted, his scythe materializing from his smart bracelet as he infused it with mana. "Let him go!" Nero also yelled from a distance, rushing toward them with his longsword in his hand. In response to their actions, the young elites positioned behind Kai summoned their weapons as well, prepared to intervene. But before anyone could do anything, Kai raised his hand. This simple action of his made the cadets behind him stop. Kai redirected his gaze toward Nero, who had now arrived in front of Lucas, and inquired, "Why are you protecting him? He's in my unit." Nero responded firmly. "Fair enough," Kai shrugged nonchalantly. "However, I still have more questions for him." "Dude," Nero burst out, frustration evident in his voice, "you've got the wrong guy. I don't know where Quinn went after he disobeyed my orders to fight and vanished, but Lucas was giving us the strategic instructions through him the whole time." Kai's expression soured upon hearing this revelation. "Why should I believe you? Ask anyone in our class," Kent interjected, visibly enraged. "Now drop your oppressive mana pressure, or I will sever your head from your shoulders." "Funny," Kai scoffed, looking at Kent as if he was no threat to him before attracting his mana pressure. "Ha ha!" Gasping for breath, Lucas collapsed to his knees when the pressure was lifted, his heart pounding rapidly as Kent knelt beside him to provide support, allowing a few moments for him to regain his composure. Kai resumed his interrogation. "Fine, then answer me this. Who orchestrated your class's victory in the mock war? Who was the mastermind?" Lucas furrowed his brow, visibly perplexed by the inquiry. "Mastermind? I don't understand. What do you mean? What the hell are you talking about?" Nero chipped in angrily. "There was no mastermind orchestrating anything. Are you an idiot?" "Oh, come on," Kai scoffed, pointing at Lucas. "You honestly expect me to believe that this guy, the disgraced brat of the Morningstar family, was the one who led your class to victory?" "Well, technically, it was I who led our class to victory," Nero retorted, his tone laced with mockery. "Ask your loyal lapdog standing behind you how I dealt him the finishing blow and killed off your whole class single-handedly." Much like a dog as Nero claimed him to be, Alberto bared his teeth, ready to retaliate. "Whoa!" But Kai swiftly raised his hand to quell the brewing conflict. He then refocused his attention on Nero. "Fine, then explain to me how he managed to defeat the strategist of Class 1C8? My father is a general," Lucas replied. "He taught me the art of strategic planning in battle. Even though I couldn't actively participate in the mock war due to my injuries at the time, I contributed by providing strategies to my classmates." Kai's frown deepened as he processed this information. "You were injured?" Lucas nodded solemnly. "Yes, during the unit test, that guy standing behind you sent a mana beast to target one of my classmates. I got injured while defending her." Kai turned his gaze to the boy Lucas had gestured at with his china Alberto. With a questioning look, he silently sought Alberto's account of the events. "I've already said this once, and I'll say it again," Alberto snapped in frustration, having to repeat himself. "We had nothing to do with that mana beast attacking Class 1A1. It emerged from the woods on its own and targeted you guys." Kai redirected his attention back to Lucas, his gaze contemplative. "It seems you're a little chivalrous. So you were really injured during the mock war?" "Yes," Lucas exclaimed. "That's why I told you. Not only am I too weak to fight Quinn, but I was also injured during that time. He didn't come back to attack me." Kai stroked his chin thoughtfully as he observed Lucas, his gaze penetrating and analytical. He studied the young Morningstar's physical cues, noting the clamminess of his skin, the rapidness of his breathing, the dilated pupils, and the weak yet regular pulse. No matter how Kai analyzed the situation, Lucas's account of events remained consistent. His story checked out, and his words were unfiltered. Yes, there was no doubt about it. Lucas was telling the truth. He was in a bit of a shock due to being attacked out of nowhere, but he wasn't lying. So then he was right. Lucas couldn't be the puppet master of Class 1A1, but if not him, then who? Kai wanted to delve deep into this matter, but the hostility in Nero's eyes seemed to be starting to grow by the second. Although he was fairly certain he could take Nero on at his current level, he didn't want to reveal his prowess to the world. I should do what I'm told and stick to the Book of Prophet, Kai thought in his mind, and decided to leave. I have obtained the information I sought. Thank you for your honest answers. Having said his piece, Kai turned away, signaling for the group of cadets to follow suit. It was time to leave. Wait, no, you can't leave like this. Grace, who had been watching this show from the sidelines with a smirk on her face thinking that Lucas was about to get into trouble, was taken aback when Kai decided to leave. What about him? Grace pointed at Lucas, her face contorted with anger. You certainly aren't thinking of leaving him alone, right? Kai looked at Grace as if he was looking at a mad woman. Grace, I listened to you. I came here because you claimed he was the mastermind. Grace nodded emphatically, her certainty unwavering. Yes, I'm telling you, no, he isn't. His story checks out. He wasn't the one who defeated Quinn, and I don't sense any hint of danger when I look at him. He's incredibly weak, Kai yelled, frustration evident in his voice. Then what about how he uncovered my identity, or his uncanny strategic abilities? What do you have to say about that? Grace retorted, attempting to counter Kai's argument. However, Kai simply shook his head, disappointment etched on his face. I'm beginning to doubt that he discovered your identity because of his intelligence. It's more likely that you made a mistake somewhere. Maybe you slipped up, Kai stated. And yes, let's assume he's a skilled strategist, but he was in the control room while someone was battling Quinn. It's physically impossible for him to be in two places at once. He's manipulating you. It's all part of his plan. He confessed it to me during our class trip. Can't you see? Grace yelled, her voice growing increasingly frenzied. Oh, for heaven's sake, Kai groaned, rubbing his temples. I don't know what personal grudge you have against that guy, but now you're starting to sound completely unhinged. Grace, if you want to be a part of the young elites and avoid making your academic life miserable, then just keep quiet and follow my lead. With that, he turned around once more and began walking away from the training field. Come on, everyone, we're leaving. Grace's gaze darted back and forth between Lucas and Kai, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within her: a disbelief, anger, and even a tinge of desperation. Finally, she clenched her teeth and reluctantly trailed behind Chi, her shoulders slumped in defeat. As they made their way out, Grace couldn't help but shoot hostile glances in Lucas's direction, fueling her resentment. Kai didn't know what was going on with her. A few weeks ago, when he recruited her, she wasn't like this. That's the reason he tasked her with sabotaging the Class 1A. He trusted her, yet, she had let him down. Not only had she failed in her mission, but she had also attempted to pin the blame on someone else for her own shortcomings. Kai despised individuals who refused to take accountability for their own mistakes, but for the sake of the trust he once put in her, Kai still decided to come here and personally investigate Lucas. And upon closer examination, he found out what he had always believed to be the case: Lucas wasn't the mastermind. Kai was sure that Lucas wasn't lying. He was sure of it. After all, Kai started lying almost as soon as he started breathing. There is no way in hell he couldn't tell if someone was lying or not, unless Lucas was some sort of deranged psychopath, capable of deluding himself into believing the lies he tells her. An unlikely scenario. In Kai's estimation, he was convinced that Lucas was not the person he was looking for. Gasping for breath, I focused my eyes on the distant figure of Kai Wiseman. A faint smile began to form on my face. It worked. He fell for my deception. Lucas, are you all right, bro? Should we take you to the nurse's office? Both Nero and Kent, who stood and knelt beside me, expressed their worry as I waved my hand to dismiss their concerns. I'm okay, I managed to say between ragged breaths before turning to Nero and voicing my gratitude. Thanks for having my back. It's all right. Nero gave my shoulders a light pat before glancing toward Kai, who was already out of the training field. I've heard of him. Isn't that Kai Wiseman? Yes, I nodded, summoning the last remnants of strength in my legs to stand up. He's the heir to the Wiseman family. Yeah, Nero nodded in return. I heard he formed the clique of young nobles, MHMM, they call themselves young elites, I replied, PFFTT. Kent stifled a chuckle. Wait, for real? That's the most cheesy name I've ever come across. Yeah, well, he isn't wrong. Even I can't get over the fact of how stupid that name sounds whenever I think about it. I mean, young elites? Seriously? Couldn't he come up with something better? Why did he target you? Nero shifted his gaze to me and asked. I have no idea, I shrugged. This was actually the first time I met him too. I see. Nero stroked his chin, his eyes filled with contemplation. Well, regardless of the reason, it's all good now. I doubt he or his cronies will bother us anymore now that he satisfied his curiosity, whatever it was. True, Kent chimed in, concurring with a nod. Well, guys, let's head back to class. The third period is about to begin. Indeed, Nero nodded once more, then turned to me, a mischievous grin forming on his lips. Oh, and let's take the elevator. Oh, come on, I protested, realizing he was teasing me now. Both Kent and Nero burst into laughter simultaneously, fueling my mounting exasperation. Hey, how's your shoulder, by the way? Nero turned to Kent and inquired as we started walking. Oh, yeah, it's all fixed now, Nero, thanks for asking, Kent replied. I see. Oh, and Kent, have you happened to hear anything about Drake's condition while you were in the hospital? Nero inquired. Yeah, he lost his arm, as you know, but the doctors managed to attach a mechanical arm to his severed hand. He's currently in rehabilitation, and they say he'll be able to use his new hand in a few weeks. Emma, the girl who cut off his arm, has been constantly by his side, helping him and apologizing, Kent explained. Well, it wasn't her fault, she was under a vampire's mind control, Nero responded. Still, she's a third-year cadet. I think she's more angry at herself for not being able to counter the mind control spell in time, Kent added. As they engaged in conversation on our way to the next class, my mind drifted away, and I found myself lost in my own thoughts. I pretended to listen to them, occasionally nodding in agreement with their words. The initial phase of my plan has been successfully executed. This should deter Kai from following my trail for quite some time, and when he eventually realizes that it was I who fought Quinn during the mock war, the mastermind of Class 1A1, it will already be too late for him to react. This is already my victory. A broken bar. No, wait, I mustn't celebrate my triumph while there's still one more step left for me to accomplish. I need to get stronger. Only by becoming at least 5 times more powerful than my current state will I have the strength to accomplish both of the objectives I have set for the second arc, crushing Kai and surviving the vampire attack at the King's tournament. Nodding, I muttered to myself, let's do this. Awesome. Kent, who appeared to have overheard my muttering, suddenly yelled with excitement. What? I asked, a bit startled. You just agreed to join me and Nero at the bar this evening, Kent exclaimed, brimming with joy. Hey, I never agreed to anything, Nero interjected, slightly raising his hands in protest, but Kent grabbed hold of them. Neither did I. You were considering it, and I take someone's silence as confirmation, Kent replied with a cheeky smile. I won't even bother pointing out how many things were wrong with that statement. Once classes were over, Nero and I got roped into joining Kent on an impromptu trip to a bar, even though we never really agreed to it. Anyway, Nero and I didn't really drink anything, but the outing turned out to be enjoyable to some extent. After wasting a good couple of hours there, I finally called it a day and headed back home. When I got home, I spent another 3 hours pouring mana into the beast egg, only taking short breaks to consume mana potions or grab a bite to eat. It was around 11:44 p.m., and here I stood on my balcony, mesmerized by the sight of the starry sky above and the vibrant city below, aglow with a captivating symphony of dazzling lights. After consuming a few more rounds of the mana potion, I still had plenty of mana left in me to channel into the beast egg, but at last, I decided to hold off on that for now. Why? One might ask, well, call it a hunch, but I had this gut feeling that I might need to save my mana for something else later tonight. Ding, donga! Just as I was lost in those thoughts, I was abruptly jolted back to reality by the sound of my doorbell ringing. There it was. My hunch was about to become reality. Making my way to the front door, I swung it open and was greeted by the sight of a petite worker robot standing there. "What's up?" I asked nonchalantly. In its monotonous mechanical tone, the bot responded, "You have been summoned by your instructor Leo Kurogami." Ha! I originally doubted it, but that bastard really summoned me in the middle of the night. "So, Master, don't you think it would be more convenient to just call me on my smart bracelet instead of sending a worker robot to my door every time you want to summon me?" I asked. "Yeah, you're right. My bad. Did it disrupt your sleep?" Leo responded apologetically. "Nah, that's not the issue, Master. If it was a text message, you could have easily informed me about this," I replied, shaking my head dismissively. "About what?" Leo asked, seemingly oblivious. About this," I exclaimed, pointing directly at the teleportation gate before us. "Why on earth are we here, Master?" Leo simply shrugged, giving me a look that clearly said, "Isn't it obvious?" Before finally responding, "We're going someplace to train in peace," he declared. I looked at him with wide eyes full of shock and disbelief. "Going someplace to train? Where?" "Southern Mountain Range," Leo replied, a hint of amusement dancing in his eyes with a subtle smile on his face. "Yeah, I stuttered in shock, struggling to form a coherent response. Collecting myself, I took a few deep breaths to regain composure before politely voicing my concerns. "But, Master, I didn't pack anything." Leo chuckled lightly. "We're going there to train, not for a fancy outing, Lucas. Your current attire is perfectly suitable." For reference, I was wearing casual dark camo slacks and a black sleeveless hoodie t-shirt while Leo was sporting a red and black hack armor. "I'm not talking about my outfit, Master," I exclaimed, frustration evident in my voice as I clutched my head in vexation. "I mean, I didn't pack any supplies like food and other essentials. And isn't the Southern Mountain Range known for its cold temperatures? I'll freeze to death in these clothes," I added. "And what do you mean what I'm wearing is fine, huh? I look absolutely fabulous even in these simple clothes." Hearing my words triggered a mischievous smile to appear on Leo's face as he looked at me, finding this situation amusing. "Oh, believe me, you'll be fine," he replied, his tone teasing. Something was wrong, I could feel it. This guy was planning something. "Okay, and for how long will we be going?" I asked with a defeated sigh. "For 3 weeks," Leo replied. 3 weeks? Master, I have my semester exams in 5 weeks. I should be studying right now," I retorted. Leo let out another chuckle. "Aren't you a genius? You'll be fine. Bro can bar this guy. Here are 2 tokens for you, sir." Right then, a middle-aged guard walked up to us and handed Leo a pair of tokens once our identities were confirmed. He was responsible for guarding this teleportation gate, so it was his job to check the identity of those who wished to use it. Well, of course, he only had to verify my identity. Everyone in this world knows who Leo is. Leo passed one of the tokens to me, and almost on cue, a shimmering distortion appeared in the very fabric of space within the frame of the imposing teleportation gate. "Let's go," Leo beckoned before heading straight for the portal in space, which was emitting a bright bluish-violet hue. As he effortlessly walked through the portal and disappeared into thin air, I couldn't help but release a resigned sigh. Well, it was me who wanted to get stronger before the King's tournament, so yeah, it looks like my wish is finally being granted, I guess. But as I approached the portal, a gust of chilly wind emanated from its depths, causing a shiver to run down my spine. Yup, I was definitely going to freeze if I were to cross this gate, but I don't see any other choice. Arghh, fuck me sideways, Master. It's freezing, I stammered, my teeth chattering uncontrollably. Nah, it's just a little bit chillier than usual," Leo casually remarked. "A little bit? I can't even feel my fingers, you jerk." The frigid winds mercilessly assaulted my body, causing my nose and fingers to go numb. It was a struggle to keep my eyes open as I braved the relentless gusts of cold air, and on top of that, we were currently making our way up a snow-covered mountain. I struggled to maintain my footing on the slippery snowy terrain, occasionally losing my balance and stumbling. We had arrived in the southern continent, also known as the Great White South. Due to its snowy climate, the teleportation gate had transported us to the heart of Frisia City, a bustling urban center located near the edge of the southern mountain range. After hopping on a train, we came to the mountain range and started our trekking, climbing up the mountains in this freezing weather. "All right," Leo nodded, a satisfied expression crossing his face for some reason. He came to a halt and declared, "We'll start your training here." We had reached a snowy meadow situated on a sloping mountainside, though not completely flat. The area provided enough space for movement, and the cliff was a considerable distance away. "So he really is going to train me in this freezing cold, huh? Guess I'm really going to die." "Come on, Lucas, cheer up," Leo said with a hint of amusement, pulling out a jacket from the dimensional storage of his smart bracelet. A glimmer of hope sparked within me as I thought that he would offer the jacket to me, only to be met with disappointment as he casually slipped it on himself. "A broken bar, what the hell? Training on the mountains is always fun, you'll see," Leo remarked, seemingly unfazed by the freezing temperatures. If it's so fun," I stuttered, shivering uncontrollably. Then how about why you do the training and kindly hand that jacket over here?" Leo chuckled, his voice laced with amusement. "Yeah, nice try, but no thanks. Damn, this jerk." "Now, attention," Leo's voice boomed, causing me to let out a sigh as I snapped to attention. Standing upright with my hands firmly clasped behind my back, "I will train you until you reach the pinnacle of martial prowess, just like me, until you've become one of the strongest names in the world, just like me," Leo proclaimed. "During your discipleship, you will face numerous tests, and this will be your first. For an entire week, your challenge is to survive on this mountain." Leo paused for a moment, a mischievous glint in his eyes. As a wise man once said, true martial arts can only be honed in real combat. That wise man was me, by the way. Pausing for another moment, he added, "So, you'll be sparring with me day and night, with breaks only for hunting, eating, and refreshing yourself. By the end of these 3 weeks, you'll be at least 3 times stronger than you are now." I couldn't help but raise an objection. "Wait a second," I interjected, my hands gesturing in disbelief. "Did you say I have to hunt?" Leo simply shrugged, an amused smile playing on his lips. "Well, yes, it's your own fault for not packing anything. Now you'll have to hunt for your food. I won't be sharing what I have packed." "Let's start by doing something about your cold," Leo remarked, observing my shivering form. Despite my discomfort, I stretched out my hand towards him, a hopeful smile on my face and a greedy glint in my eyes. Leo looked at me, perplexed. "What are you doing? Aren't you going to give me your jacket?" I asked, slightly puzzled. Leo's expression turned stern as he crossed his arms over his body. "Stop eyeing my jacket. Tsk." I clicked my tongue in annoyance, regretting my assumption. Leo's gaze intensified as he narrowed his eyes. "Did you just click your tongue at me?" A cold sweat formed on my forehead as I quickly averted my gaze. No, it must have been something else. Anyway, Leo began, changing the topic while still looking at me suspiciously. "Do you have any knowledge of sword chi? It's a technique where you infuse your weapon with mana, right?" I asked. Leo's face twisted into a frown as he thoughtfully replied, "Yes, but that's just the basic concept of sword chi. The true sword chi takes it a step further. It involves not only infusing your weapon with mana but also shaping and solidifying the mana to enhance its power." Understanding dawned upon me, causing me to furrow my eyebrows in a frown of contemplation. "I see, let me explain. So basically, in its natural form, mana resembles a liquid, and when you channel mana into your weapon, it forms a liquid-like layer on the surface of that weapon, boosting its attack prowess. This infusion alone can greatly enhance the weapon's power. However, the true potential lies in taking control of that liquid state and solidifying it into what is known as true sword chi. It's a kind of technique that could actually kill someone in a single blow. Leo nodded in satisfaction as he saw the look of understanding on my face. Yes, by channeling mana into your weapon and shaping it, you can enhance its power and sharpness and even imbue it with elemental properties, he added. I nodded back before returning to the point when I felt yet another chill run down my spine. Master, I understand all that, but how does that translate into overcoming this bone-chilling cold? I inquired through shivering lips. However, Leo ignored my question and continued to speak. Many can wield basic sword chi for a few moves, but using it for an entire battle is the true challenge. He paused momentarily before declaring, your objective over these 3 weeks is to attain mastery over the basic sword chi. Sure, I will do that if I don't die of this cold first. Frustration tinged my voice as I interjected, what good will mastering a weapon technique do if I'm not left alive to wield it? Oh no, you won't be mastering it as a weapon technique right now. Leo shook his head. I raised an eyebrow in puzzlement. Huh? What do you mean? I sought clarification. Leo smirked as he began to explain. Yes, you heard me, my dear disciple. You'll be mastering sword chi as a body technique first before moving on to use it on a weapon, because, as a wise man once said, if you can't master your own body first, then how can you expect to use it to master a weapon? He added. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. Let me guess, that wise man was you? Indeed, it was, Leo shamefully admitted with a straight face. Now, relax your body and get into a meditative state. Letting out a resigned sigh, I followed Leo's instructions. Closing my eyes, I focused on relaxing my body. With each breath, I directed my attention to the mana core in my abdomen. Good, Leo remarked before instructing. Now draw out your mana and cover your body with it, just like you do with your weapon. I tried doing as I was told. It was a familiar process. I had coated my weapons, my spear and arrows, with mana countless times before. However, extending it to cover my entire body proved to be a challenge. With each attempt, I encountered difficulties in shaping the mana to envelop every part of my body. The task of maintaining a constant flow of mana to cover a larger surface area than I was accustomed to when coating weapons was a drag, but after numerous failed attempts and around 30 to 40 minutes later, if not more, a breakthrough finally occurred. The liquid-like mana gradually spread across my figure, creating a shimmering blue aura around my body. As the layer of mana enveloped my body, I could feel its soothing presence against my skin. It acted as a barrier, shielding me from the biting cold as if I was wearing a blanket. It was still cold, but nothing unbearable. However, there was more to it than just warmth. A surge of strength coursed through my muscles. It was similar to the familiar sensation I feel whenever I channel mana into a part of my body, but right now, I felt the power surge radiating throughout my entire being. This was amazing. Excellent. I didn't think you would grasp the concept so soon, Leo commented, a proud smile gracing his face. The state you're in when sword chi is applied to the body instead of a weapon, is called martial aura, and when you infuse it with true sword chi, it becomes what is referred to as true martial aura. Yeah, I guess I remember reading something like that in the novel. Then again, since I skipped most of the info dumps, I wasn't quite sure. So I kept listening to Leo. After providing me with a thorough explanation, Leo slightly bent his knees and raised his hands, assuming a combat stance. Beckoning me with his finger, he yelled, "Now, come, attack me," while trying to maintain that form. Attack? I was struggling to maintain the aura even when I was doing nothing. How can he expect me to move around and launch attacks? Noticing the troubled expression on my face, Leo's smile widened. Don't worry, I won't kill you, a broken bar this guy. Gritting my teeth, I also bent my knees and tensed my calf muscles, preparing to propel myself towards Leo's direction. Whooshaw! In a burst of speed, I launched at Leo with my hands pulled back in preparation. As soon as I closed the distance, I swiftly launched a straight jab directly at him. However, in a seamless motion, Leo tilted his head and effortlessly evaded my punch, allowing it to brush past his cheek. Not content with stopping there, I quickly adjusted my approach. My knees suddenly loosened, and in one fluid motion, I dropped to the ground. From there, I quickly spun back my body on one foot to execute a reverse swift leg sweep using the momentum I gained from dropping on the ground. Arghh. However, at the last moment, just as my leg was about to make contact with his and I was going to sweep him off the ground, the protective mana layer enveloping my leg abruptly dissipated. Without the heightened strength and resilience it provided, it felt as though I had struck a solid steel pole with my leg, causing me to let out a cry of agony as I crumpled onto the ground, writhing in pain. "Fuck," I cried out again. "Yeah." Leo gave me a look of pity before throwing a small bottle of green liquid at me. "It must be hurting. You hit your Achilles tendon. Here, have this mana potion." Catching the vial of mana potion Leo threw at me, I applied it on my leg through gritted teeth. As the pain diminished, Leo started speaking. "Your movement was way too fast for the flow of mana to adjust on your moving leg." I nodded in understanding as Leo added, "Nice try, though. Get up and do it again." Sighing, I got up, but before I was about to take a stance and attack again, I frowned as a realization hit me. "Wait," I said, raising my eyebrow. "I was definitely not fast enough for you to not react in time. Did you not dodge on purpose?" "Of course," Leo shrugged. "The best way to learn something is through pain. Now, come at me again. I will definitely kill this guy one day." The sun was about to rise in a few minutes. The echoes of panting and exertion reverberated across the snowy meadow as I persistently tried to land a strike on Leo. We pressed on with our training for the whole night, pausing only when my mana reserves or physical strength depleted. When that happened, Leo offered me some high-grade mana and stamina recovery potions to help me replenish my energy before resuming the training. I'm gradually starting to get the hang of shrouding my entire body in mana and harnessing its energy to augment the power of my strikes. No matter how fast my speed is, I can now maintain a near constant stream of mana and utilize it to cloak my entire figure. Of course, there are occasional moments when my concentration breaks, causing a temporary disruption in my martial aura. Nevertheless, for the most part, I find myself capable of sustaining it effectively. As Leo skillfully evaded my martial aura-infused punches, he couldn't look more surprised at the alarming rate I was growing. Letting out a fierce cry, I stomped my foot upon the ground to acquire a proper footing on the slippery snow and threw a high roundhouse kick. Yet, with apparent ease, Leo swiftly crouched, allowing my leg to pass over his head unscathed. Using this chance to swiftly close the distance, he deftly grappled the leg I stood upon before quickly pulling it back. Because of that, I lost my footing and fell back first on the snow-covered cushiony ground. Arghh! I could only grunt as, in the next moment, I found a clenched fist inches away from my face. 30th defeat, Leo remarked, his tone carrying a hint of amusement, as he opened his fist and extended a hand toward me, offering assistance to stand. With a sigh of disappointment, I accepted his hand, clearly displeased with my performance. Noticing the expression etched upon my face, Leo gently pulled me up and gave my shoulder a reassuring pat. "Don't be too hard on yourself," he said. "It's truly remarkable that you've come so close to mastering the fundamentals of martial aura within just a few hours of practice. It usually takes individuals weeks, even months, to achieve what you've done in such a short span of time." "How long did it take you when you were learning it?" I inquired. "Oh, I never did," Leo answered. "I was naturally able to wield it without any need for practice." The words caught in my throat, leaving me utterly speechless. Just how fucking overpowered is this guy, huh? But don't compare yourself to me. "What you've accomplished is remarkable on its own," Leo interjected, his tone filled with genuine admiration. It's as if you possess the blessings of the heavens themselves. I think you really are a genius. Little did he know, I indeed held a blessing, one bestowed upon me by a godlike entity. You see, when Leo summoned me earlier tonight, I knew he would commence my training, so I did what any sensible person would do in possession of a pen capable of tempering with reality itself. I took 2 bottles of water. Using my edit pen, I transmuted the water within those bottles into potions with the power to temporarily enhance my learning speed of martial arts. Basically, upon consumption, these potions caused my martial arts learning speed to be tripled. However, their effects are to diminish within 2 weeks. Although I initially wanted the effects to remain permanent, the required edit points necessary to achieve such a result were completely out of my budget. Even the creation of 2 bottles of learning buff potions cost me around 2,700 edit points, leaving me with a mere 878 more. Such an outcome was to be anticipated, considering no such item existed in this world in the first place, so I basically just created something completely fictional in a fantasy world, and furthermore, I was transforming normal water into a potent buff elixir. It was far from an equivalent exchange, thus, demanding a higher expenditure of edit points to balance it out was normal. Leo took a few strides backwards and skillfully assumed a combat stance. The very reason you're unable to hit me is because you think of your body solely as your physical form. Start thinking of it as an instrument of combat, Leo declared, after a brief pause. He continued, use your hands and legs as weapons while harnessing the remaining aspects of your body to support those weapons. Attack me with everything you have here. Use your whole body instead of using only your limbs. Nodding, I raised my hands over my head and bent my knees slightly. Taking a few deep breaths, I tunneled my vision at my opponent. Whoosh! Exclamation mark. In the next moment, I propelled myself towards Leo like a bullet. Upon entering the striking range, I launched an onslaught of attacks against him, starting with a low kick, swiftly followed by a straight jab and then a forceful knee thrust to the abdomen. Finally, I spun my body, aiming to connect a spinning elbow strike to his face. Yet, despite my relentless assault, Leo deftly blocked each and every one of my attacks. Not a single strike managed to find its mark. To throw him off balance, I tried to use feint attacks and combos like high and low kicks and crouching down to show that I'll attack down before transitioning into an unexpected uppercut. However, no matter what I did, I still was unable to hit him even once. I was about to hop backwards and catch my breath, but Leo didn't give me the chance. In the blink of an eye, he swiftly closed the distance and outstretched his hand, his fingers barely grazing my chest. In a seamless motion, before I could even react, Leo clenched his fist and forcefully planted his foot on the ground, and then, with an explosive burst of power, thwack! Exclamation mark. He delivered a devastating 1-inch punch. Kyuk! The sensation was akin to being struck by lightning as the impact surged through my chest. My vision blacked out as the sheer force flung me back into the air. Eventually, gravity forcefully pulled me back to the ground, as I crashed with an undignified thud. Do you see now? Leo remarked as I struggled to rise to my feet, wincing in discomfort. I used every part of my body, every fiber of my being to land that strike. Yeah, I have to admit, that was pretty impressive, I conceded. Despite the pain, I couldn't deny how cool that move was. God, I wanna learn that. Leo's lips curled into a smug smile. Indeed it was, he replied before moving on to his next point. By the way, are you feeling hungry? I guess, I responded, slightly puzzled. What's with the sudden question? Good, then let's go on a hunt, he declared. You know, Master, when you mentioned going on a hunt, I thought we were going to hunt a fox or something, I remarked. Leo chuckled. Where's the fun in that, my dear disciple? I raised an eyebrow. So, the epitome of fun for you is hunting down an entire pack of ice claw bears? As of now, we had ascended to the peak of the snow-covered mountain that we were on earlier. As soon as we arrived, from our vantage point, we spotted a cluster of caves nestled in the mountainside in the distance and a pack of white polar bears living there. Only these polar bears were unlike any I saw on National Geographic in my past life. They towered twice the size of the polar bears back on my Earth, and their claws gleamed with crystalline ice-like material. Yes, they were mana beasts, and they were known as ice claw bears. As bronze-ranked mana beasts, they possessed the ability to wield a few ice magic spells. Currently, we were hidden within the cover of the nearby woods, out of their sight and undetected by their senses. From a rough estimation, I counted their numbers to be around 30. I really had no idea how we were going to hunt them. No, my dear disciple, the epitome of fun for me is watching my dear disciple tackle the task of hunting down the entire pack of ice claw bears alone. Huh? Wait, hold on. Is he seriously expecting me to hunt them alone? What? No, wait a minute, absolutely not. If you think you're in trouble or you're about to die, just shout for help. With that said, Leo grabbed the back of my neck. No, master, I will die. Exclamation mark. As I was in the middle of begging him to let me go, Leo tightened his grip on my neck. With a surge of strength, he pulled me backwards before lifting me off the ground and forcefully throwing me forward into the air. Return to where we were training once you've finished. Good luck. Leo's voice trailed off as I hurtled through the air, crashing amidst the group of ice claw bears, who were leisurely lounging in the snow. Thwacka! Exclamation mark. Arghh! With a groan escaping my lips, I gingerly rose to my feet. My head was throbbing, so my hands reached to massage it. Maybe I hit it when I landed. Thankfully, the ground was covered with snow, so it cushioned most of the impact. As I struggled to regain my composure, a sudden surge of unease gripped me and brought me back to reality, causing a shiver to run down my spine. It was killing intent. A huge amount of killing intent was directed at me. I gradually pried open my eyelids, cautiously allowing my eyes to adjust to the surroundings. Dreadfully, I surveyed my surroundings to see, for lack of better words, how fucked up I was. And let's just say what I saw was enough for me to just resign to my fate and accept the fact that I was about to join my dead grandma in heaven after a few minutes. My crash landing had grabbed the attention of all the ice claw bears in the vicinity. Their gazes were filled with a primal hunger, their eyes tinged with bloodlust, and their mouths watering at the thought of sinking their teeth into my flesh. Since not many humans visit this mountain range very often, it's clear that human meat was a delicacy to these mana beasts. TSK, I clicked my tongue in annoyance and summoned my bow and a quiver full of arrows from my smart bracelet. This was going to be a drag, but I wasn't going to become their red dinner without putting up a fight. Arghh! One of the ice claw bears let out a thunderous roar and darted towards me with its menacing claws pulled back to unleash a powerful strike. In response to its lead, the other ice claw bears surrounding me swiftly followed suit and also rushed at me, though a few of them stayed behind to strategically block any possible escape routes if I might try to run away. This showed me that they were not mere mindless creatures, they were intelligent, and they were working together in coordination. Although this put me at a disadvantage, I didn't have the luxury of crying about it right now. Without hesitation, I took a deep breath, drawing an arrow from the quiver and aligning it on the taut bowstring. My sights were fixed on the first ice claw bear that rushed at me. I took aim at it and released the arrow. Swisher! Exclamation mark. The arrow launched at the ice claw bear at breakneck speed, but the mana beast was quick to react. It raised its claws and deflected my arrow with ease, not stopping its charge at all. I was prepared for it, so I also dashed at the incoming ice claw bear. Arghh! The bear roared as I got too close to it and swung its claw at me, aiming to shred me asunder in an instant. But I channeled mana into my legs and jumped over its head in the air. From there, I knocked another arrow on my bow and shot it at the beast. The ice claw bear, who saw the attack coming, again raised its claw over its head to block my arrow. Hey, but I could only smirk as that happened. Kaboom! Exclamation mark. The arrow exploded as soon as it came in contact with the ice claw bear's claws, obstructing my vision of the beast with smoke. Thuda! Exclamation mark. I landed a few steps away from the beast and quickly took out another arrow and placed it on the bow. Since many other beasts were also rushing at me, I had no time to celebrate my kill. I had to continuously keep on fighting if I wanted to survive. Arghh, huh? But right then, the ice claw bear I thought I had killed emerged from the smoke and furiously rushed at me again. Fucking hell, I cursed out loud before placing my bow back into the dimensional storage of my smart bracelet and taking out my spear. Come, thwoosh! Exclamation mark. The ice claw bear lunged forward, slashing its lethal claws in my direction. Reacting swiftly, I hopped a few steps back, narrowly avoiding my death. Thwama! Exclamation mark. No, I wasn't exaggerating. The mana beast's claw struck the exact spot where I stood, creating a resounding thrash that echoed through the air. The ground trembled with the force of the impact. If I hadn't moved, I would have been crushed. In the midst of this close call, my gaze fell upon the once pristine white fur of the ice claw bear, reminiscent of the untouched snow, only now it was no longer pristine or snow-white anymore. Instead, it was now half-burnt, scorched from the earlier explosion triggered by my exploding arrow. I see, so its fur protected it, huh? I thought out loud to myself. Simultaneously, I raised my spear to counterattack as I saw the very same ice claw bear already coming at me again. Since the mana beast was already perilously close, I couldn't have pulled back my spear in time and used it to attack, so I made a quick decision. As the ice claw bear swung its claw at me again, I infused my spear with mana and raised it up to block its attack. Thwoosh! Exclamation mark. Thukka! Exclamation mark. However, despite the infusion of mana, as soon as the ice claw bear's claw collided with my spear, its sturdy shaft snapped in half like it was made of paper. In one fluid motion, the bear swiftly stepped in and yanked its arm up and struck me forcefully with the backside of that very same claw that had used to break my spear. Thwoosh! Exclamation mark. Kyuk! A groan escaped my lips as the impact of the ice claw bear's strike made me feel as if I had been struck by a speeding truck. The force of the attack flung me back into the air before my body violently crashed onto the snow-covered ground a few steps away. In the next instant, I was momentarily blacked out when my body hit the ground, and it truly felt like I was going to die. For a second, it felt as if I had forgotten how to breathe. However, when I remembered that I was in the middle of a battle, I forced my body to move. I had to stand up. Being down for too long would only invite further trouble. And given that I was pitted against a fucking pack of mana beasts, I already had enough of it on my plate. Arghh! Gritting my teeth, I stood up and materialized a protective coating of mana on my body, cloaking my figure in an azure hue. It was martial aura, something I had learned just today. Arghh! Right then, a fierce roar erupted from my right, catching my attention. I quickly turned to witness another ice claw bear speeding toward me at breakneck speed. A few more ice claw bears followed closely behind it, their predatory instincts on full display as they charged at me. Firmly clenching my fist, I rushed forward, dashing toward the approaching ice claw bear that was leading the charge. I stepped into the striking range and let out a fierce battle cry as the ice claw bear swung down its claw at me. With lightning reflexes, I swiftly sidestepped and evaded the oncoming blow with precision. Thwama! Exclamation mark. Seizing the opportunity, I stepped in closer to the mana beast and dropped to my knees before seamlessly spinning on one foot. In a fluid motion, I aimed a quick, low reverse spinning kick at the giant bear's leg. Thana! Exclamation mark. Arghh! As soon as my leg hit the bear, the impact resonated throughout my body, sending shockwaves of force coursing through my muscles. It felt as if I had tried to hit a boulder. The sheer impact jarred my bones while the ice claw bear remained unscathed. Gritting my teeth, I endured the pain and channeled mana into my fists, causing them to illuminate in the brightest shade of azure. Without hesitation, I jumped back to my feet and unleashed a rapid onslaught of punches upon the bear's ribs. Thwack! 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 Exclamation mark. Gah! Against my relentless barrage of lightning-fast punches, the bear could only let out a pain groan. However, Even though my attack managed to hurt the mana beast, it was clear that this alone wouldn't be enough to kill it. Just as I was about to change my strategy and use a different approach to kill it, a sudden movement in my peripheral vision caught my attention. A second ice claw bear had appeared beside me, and with its arms stretched out, this one was trying to grab me or trap me in a bear hug. Reacting quickly, I shifted my focus to it and ducked beneath its grasp, eluding its clutches. Taking advantage of the opening, I swiftly circled behind the bear and willed mana into my right leg. Using my leg as a weapon, I delivered a forceful strike to the ice claw bear's right knee, disrupting its balance and causing it to crash down onto one knee. Without any delay, I jumped and clasped the bear's neck from behind using a single hand, locking it in a one-handed neck lock. In my other hand I summon an exploding arrow from my smart bracelet, aiming to use it to pierce the ice claw bear's eye and explode its head. But before I could do that, I felt a chill run down my spine. Instinctively, I turned my head around to the left and saw a flurry of huge ice shards hurtling towards me with alarming velocity. Widening my eyes, I bent my knees and pressed my legs against Ice Claw Bear's back. Then, using its back as a springboard, I propelled myself backwards to evade the incoming ice shards. With a resounding thud, I landed a few steps back from my previous position and shifted my focus to my left once again. There, to my surprise, I spotted a remarkably different ice claw bear. This one appeared older and had a wooden shaft in its hand. It also wore a shoulder rope crafted from the hide of another ice claw bear. "A mage?" I exclaimed out loud, astonishment lacing my tone. While I knew ice claw bears could use a few ice magic spells, I never would have thought that to be an ice claw bear specializing solely in magic. Gah! Just then, a loud roar brought my focus back to my front. Fuck! I couldn't help but curse aloud as I saw yet another ice claw bear charging at me like a moving mountain. I willed mana into my legs and decided to jump over the incoming bear and then maybe hit it with an exploding arrow. However, to my horror, I wasn't able to move my legs. Eyes wide, I looked down to see my legs were frozen in place, trapped in crystal ice. It was that mage bear. While I was distracted, it used magic on me to hold me in place, but it was too late for me to figure that out now. The charging ice claw bear closed in on me as I crossed my arms over my chest, prepared to tank its attack. Without a moment's hesitation, the ice claw bear pressed forward and crashed into me with its shoulder, performing a crushing shoulder tackle. Thwacka! Arghh! I really felt as if a mountain had run into me. A shockwave of pain reverberated through my body as the force of the bear's shoulder tackle flung me back the air with an uncontrollable momentum. Helplessly, I soared in the air before violently crashing on the ground, the impact jolting through my entire being. Pain seared through my body, leaving me disoriented and gasping for breath. My desperate attempts to regain my balance proved futile as I fiddled across the ground like a flat rock to a water surface, teetering dangerously close to the edge of the cliff. With a final lurch, I tumbled over the cliff. I tried to grab hold of something to save myself from falling down, but the bones in my hands were crushed from tanking that last attack. Finally, in the next moment, I found myself falling from the peak of the snow mountain. In the snowy meadow, a man with a rather handsome face and long red hair tied into a bun sat atop a stool. Before him rested a fire blazing within a makeshift wooden grill crafted from the dry wood that he found in the surrounding forest. Atop the grill rested a cooking pot emitting delicious aroma, smoke, and occasional sizzling sounds. Despite the ferocious mana beasts lurking nearby in the woods, none of them dared to approach the man. It was because they instinctively knew that approaching the man would result in their deaths. Even though human flesh was a rarity in these mountains, it wasn't worth dying for, so all they could do was gulp down their mouth-watering saliva and walk away tearfully. Meanwhile, Leo sat idly, his gaze fixed on his cooking food as he absent-mindedly whistled a song with a bored face. Even though he didn't let it show on his face earlier, Leo was pleasantly surprised by Lucas' rapid growth. In just under a day, with the right guidance, Lucas managed to nearly grasp the essence and master the application of basic martial aura, in just a matter of a few days. He would undoubtedly attain flawless proficiency, a feat that typically requires weeks, if not months, for ordinary individuals to achieve. "This confirms it," Leo murmured, his chin resting on his fingers. "That boy truly possesses a natural gift for martial arts." But then the question remains the same: why did Lucas further General Reynold Morningstar fail to recognize such talent? "Should I talk to him about it?" Leo pondered aloud, but he promptly dismissed the idea. After all these years, Leo refused to be the first one to initiate contact. He will not call Reynold first. In fact, he would never want to talk to him again. However, perhaps there was another option. Maybe he could try speaking with Yennefer or Lucas' mother instead. No. But after giving it some thought, Leo shook his head again. Talking to Yennefer now, considering what happened last time, would definitely be awkward. Leo was the kind of person who preferred to avoid such uncomfortable situations. Then should he go ahead and talk to Lucas' sister, Yelena, instead? Nah. "That girl is the spitting image of her father," Leo remarked, shaking his head in disagreement yet again. Indeed, it was undeniable. Yelena's arrogance and ego were on par, if not above, what Reynold possessed. If Leo were to engage in a conversation with her, he was certain to lose his composure. Moreover, rumors had reached Leo's ears that Yennefer held resentment towards Lucas. Thus, talking with her would be futile, as she would likely tell him her own biased perspective. In the end, Leo could only let out a sigh of defeat. Well, it didn't really matter. Regardless of the reasons that led Reynold to overlook Lucas' talent, it was no longer Leo's concern. He could never truly comprehend that man, to begin with, and there was no point in trying to decipher his mind now. "Oh, he's about to fall off the cliff." Leo suddenly raised his head up, directing his gaze towards the snow-capped peak of the mountain. In truth, Leo had been closely observing Lucas's intense battle against the pack of ice claw bears all this time using his spatial perception. Spatial perception is a mana-infused martial arts technique that lets its user perceive the physical realm with a bird's eye view. It's the same as omnidirectional vision, that, coupled with Leo's sixth sense honed far beyond human capabilities, allowed him to adeptly monitor every subtle movement that Lucas made, all the while effortlessly cooking his dinner. And at this very moment, Leo could see Lucas teetering on the brink of the cliff. Well, he held on for as long as he could, Leo muttered to himself, accompanied by a sigh. Shaking his head, he rose from his seat and channeled mana into his legs, tensing his calves' muscles. Right from the beginning, Leo knew that Lucas wouldn't be able to hunt down an entire pack of ice claw bears alone. It was an impossible feat at his level after all. In truth, Leo's intention was simply to assess Lucas's endurance and to witness how long he could endure in such a daunting situation. And, to his surprise, Lucas lasted for a long time, 10 minutes to be exact. While 10 minutes may not appear long, in a life-or-death battle, it could make all the difference. Of course, he made some rather foolish decisions during his fight, but all in all, he performed well. Through this and their earlier sparring session, Leo had gained enough idea of what Lucas' strengths and weaknesses were, so now he could help him work on them. Just as Leo was engrossed in such thoughts with a contemplating look plastered on his face, Lucas fell off the cliff. Whoosh! Almost instantly, Leo's figure blurred into thin air as he moved with a burst of speed to catch Lucas on time. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzly mnhh. What disturbed my sweet slumber was the sizzling sound of food being cooked and the sweet aroma that it carried. Cling, clinger. In the following instant, the harmonious melody of metal clashing against metal reached my ears. It was as if someone was indulging in their meal using steel utensils. That sharp sound caused a dull ache to shoot through my skull. I groaned again and rolled over, attempting to pull my pillow over my head to muffle the constant metal clashing sound, but instead of my pillow, I came away with a handful of damp leaves. Frowning, I tried to sit up straight, but that simple act triggered an agonizing pain in my ribs. Moving my body also caused the insides of my head to slosh. making it harder for me to focus or even open my eyes. After a long struggle, I did manage to open my bleary eyes and used them to scan my surroundings through a bottle glass blur. I recognized my surroundings after a little drowsy confusion. I remember now, I wasn't in my room but on the southern mountain range with that bastard of a Master Leo. I jerked my head from side to side to look for him. There he was, sitting on a stool, eating stew directly from the bowl while looking at me with amused eyes. Only after he finished his stew and wiped his mouth with a handkerchief he put down the bowl, his eyes still on me. "Oh, you're awake?" he said, causing a nerve to bulge on my forehead. Welcome back, my ass," I snapped. I could have died. No, I think I did die. How am I alive? You fell off the cliff, and I dashed in to save you, Leo smugly explained. I was also kind enough to make you a bed and use some healing potions on you. His words caused a frown to appear on my face as I glanced around. Sure enough, I was lying on a bed constructed from an arrangement of tree leaves. Although they were moist, they provided insulation against the cold emanating from the snowy ground. Remembering something, I quickly started touching my body, paying close attention to my rib area. With a sense of urgency, I lifted my t-shirt and discovered that my abdomen was covered in bandages. Did you see?" I asked, without meeting his gaze. The shoulder tackle from the dice claw bear ought to have broken some of my ribs, so it's obvious why I was covered in bandages. But if Leo was the one who applied these bandages, then that must mean he saw it, and since it's him, he should know what it is. If you're referring to the relic on your chest, which, in my opinion, can only be none other than the Phoenix's embrace, then I must admit that I didn't see it. What? You don't believe me? Alright, fine, I did see it, Leo confessed, accompanied by a sigh. His eyes brimmed with curiosity as he continued. You must be aware that many have searched for that relic throughout the years, right? While it may not be widely known among your generation, people in my time would have killed for it, and they still would. Its existence is documented in the Academy records of relics. So, I'm intrigued. How did you manage to obtain a lost relic? Academy records of relics? I frowned. What's that? Global Academy has a list of powerful relics. The central government and the United Military also maintain their own lists, although theirs are more detailed and expansive, of course, Leo answered. Now answer my question. I see, I replied while stroking my chin before meeting his gaze. A talking tree gave it to me. Hey, what gave it to you? Leo raised his eyebrows. A talking tree, I replied like it was the most natural thing in the world. A talking tree? Leo looked at me skeptically. A talking tree gave it to you? You mean as in the Tree of Desires? Yes, I replied. Exactly that. Leo looked at me blankly for a few seconds before letting out a sigh. Fine, don't tell me, but at least make some creative lies instead of using a fairy tale. It's not a fairy tale. I shook my head. The Tree of Desires really does exist. It's really not Leo's fault for not believing me. Many individuals in the past tried to look for the Tree of Desires, but none of them could ever find it. Those who did weren't able to pass all his tests. So, in short, no one ever saw the Tree of Desires, and those who did weren't left alive to tell the tale. Thus, it became a fairy tale or folklore. Leo rubbed his face at my reply, expressing his exasperation before releasing another sigh. Well, if you don't want to talk, then I guess it doesn't matter. Anyway, get up. It's time for you to resume your training, Leo stated. Huh? Right now? Aren't you going to give me something to eat first? I retorted, a hint of hunger evident in my voice. Leo raised an eyebrow in response. Did you manage to hunt anything? He inquired. I could have if you had given me enough time to prepare, I argued defensively. In certain situations, you won't have the luxury of time to prepare, Leo retorted. What will you do then? Run from a fight? Or perhaps you'll die? I nearly took down one of them, I defended myself. Indeed, you also almost died in the process, Leo reminded me sternly. And how on earth did you not notice your legs freezing in place when the dice claw bear cast its spell? I was already feeling cold. I offered an explanation. My feet were already immersed in the snow, so when the spell took effect, I didn't feel anything aside from the cold, which I was already feeling. Ha! Leo pinched the bridge of his nose. Well, I guess your usage of martial aura was good enough since you didn't die from the Dice Claw Bear's shoulder tackle. Aside from buffing a person's strength to superhuman levels, martial aura also acts as a defensive barrier that protects the practitioner's body from attacks. If I wasn't using it, I would have seriously died. That's good enough for your defense for now, Leo mentioned. Let's start working on your offense. It's been 2 days since my failed attempt to hunt that Ice Claw Bear's pack. After continuously training for 2 days, I think I'm starting to get the hang of using martial aura now. You see, when I channel mana into a specific part of my body, it feels as if a surge of strength courses through it. However, when I use martial aura, it feels like I am encased in an exoskeleton that enhances both my defense and offense. Nevertheless, utilizing martial aura depletes my already small mana pool much more quickly than using spells or normal martial arts. If I'm cautious and refrain from casting heavy spells, then I guess I can keep using martial aura for around 20 minutes without needing to drink a mana potion. Although, Leo has pointed out that I'm still making excessive movements and wasting my mana. He says, since you were born with innate low mana core rank, you should strive to utilize the little mana you have with utmost mastery. In short, Leo means that even if the heavens haven't given me a big mana pool, I can still train hard and make the most out of what I've been given. I see his point. Even though I will soon break my mana core potential, it still won't hurt me to learn not to waste my mana in a fight. I mean, imagine a scenario where I am stuck in an extended fight lasting for several consecutive days. In such a situation, if I don't have any mana potions on me, then no matter how big my mana pool gets, I will sooner or later exhaust it and meet my end. Anyway, I haven't done anything but train these past 2 days, taking breaks only to freshen up or eat something. Well, only Leo would eat something while I could merely salivate at the sight of his delicious dinner every night. TSK, that bastard. Even after consuming mana and stamina potions whenever I feel like I'm on the brink of collapsing, the lack of food has left me exhausted for the past 2 days. To top it all off, we continue training even during the night, sleeping for only about 5 hours or so. Sleeping less in itself wouldn't have been a problem for me since I'm quite used to it, but getting nothing to eat is unbearable. I feel like I'm reaching my limits. Lucas, get up, Leo yelled, summoning his sheathed katana. Let's begin. It was the morning of the 3rd day, and I had just sat down after doing some light morning exercises before we resumed my training. Hardly 10 minutes had passed before Leo called me to my feet once again. Letting out a sigh, I did as I was told and stood upright attentively with my hands behind my back. Starting today, we will focus on weapon combat, Leo declared. Since fighting with weapons is my forte, don't expect me to hold back during instructions. You say that as if you were holding back until now, you scoundrel. Without revealing my inner thoughts on my face, I replied loudly, yes, master. Leo nodded and began speaking. I will guide you step by step. First step, take out your katana. Master, I don't use a katana, I responded blankly. As if expecting my answer, Leo quickly replied, second step, get a katana. Katanas are cool, and as my first, and most likely my last, disciple, you should always strive to look cool. I sighed, saying, I am a spearman, master. Don't worry, by the time I'm done with you, you'll be proficient with most, if not all, weapons just like me, Leo assured. But fine, for now, take out your spear. I don't have it, I replied, shaking my head. It broke while I was battling those ice claw bears. I see, Leo said, stroking his chin. He then infused mana into a dimensional ring on one of his fingers. In the blink of an eye, a spear materialized in Leo's hand, accompanied by a dazzling flash of white light. My eyes were immediately drawn to its mesmerizing presence. The blade was made of a crystal-like material, sparkling with a vibrant red hue that glistened under the sunlight. The blade was sharp and pointy, and I could see the redness extending down the shaft of the spear as well. Despite its slender design, I could sense the intense energy emanating from the weapon, even from a few steps away. What is that?" I stammered, gulping down a mouthful of saliva in anticipation. "Is it a legendary ranked weapon?" "You have a keen eye," Leo affirmed with a smug nod. "This is a spear crafted from the scale of the last dragon, forged in the flames of a dying phoenix, the bringer of lost flames." "So cool," I exclaimed, my eyes sparkling with admiration. "Yes, mythical ranked mana beasts like dragons and phoenix used to roam the world until a few years ago. They were normal animals who evolved from mana and turned into those creatures of legends. However, since they posed a threat to civilization, the United Military waged war against them. The top soldiers and formidable fighters worldwide participated in this grand subjugation. They drove these dangerous mythical mana beasts to the brink of extinction. In a remarkably short span of less than 2 months, creatures like phoenix, dragons, unicorns, and others were completely wiped out. In today's world, not a single mana beast of mythical rank is alive, right? I participated in the subjugation of mana beasts 8 years ago. It was there that I killed the last dragon and obtained one of its scales. I brought it back to a world-famous weaponsmith who used the flames of a dying phoenix to make this weapon," Leo explained, frustration evident in his voice as he continued. "I had requested a sword, but that old fool decided to create a spear instead. TSK. With that said, he threw the spear at me without any warning. Arghh! I shrieked in surprise as I caught it and started inspecting it. Regardless, it is a fine weapon. I have wielded it on a few occasions myself," Leo admitted. "Consider it your first gift from your master, a token of my appreciation for becoming my disciple. Besides, since you have an affinity for the fire element, you will be able to use its power to the fullest. Item, spear, relic, rank, legendary name, the bringer of lost flames. Description: a legendary rank spear made from a dragon's scale and forged in the last fiery breath of a dying phoenix. The wielder of this spear, if they possess an innate affinity for the fire element, will instantly learn a spell called Flame Lance, allowing the user to summon several flame lances and rain them down upon their target like missiles. The spear will also increase the damage and effectiveness of any and all the fire magic spells cast by the wielder. Thank you, Master. As my gaze swept over the item description screen in front of me, I earnestly thanked Leo. He really just gave me a legendary ranked spear possessing a special ability and a buff. If it weren't for the fact that it requires a wielder with an affinity for the fire element to unlock its full potential, this weapon could have easily been classified as a divine ranked relic. But that fact doesn't bother me since I already possess an affinity for the fire element, which means I can use it to its full potential. Don't mention it. Leo waved his hand dismissively, a slight smile present on his face before his expression quickly got back to normal, and he yelled again, "Now, ready your weapon." Following his instructions, I gripped the shaft of my new spear tightly and lifted it up, pointing its blade at Leo. "No matter how exceptional your weapon may be, its true value only lies in its purpose," Leo stated. "What's a weapon's purpose?" I asked. "To bring about death, of course," Leo answered. "If you can't use your weapon to bring death, you may as well not wield it." Shinger! With a swift motion, Leo drew his katana from its sheath, and the sound of steel slicing through the air resounded. Weapons are not the soul of a martial artist. Those who claim otherwise are fools. Weapons are mere instruments. Their sole purpose is to kill, whether physically taking a life or metaphorically slaying one's opponent's ego by defeating them. Weapons exist solely to end something. At Leo's words, I nodded and tightened my grip on my spear. "I will teach you how to use a weapon like how it was taught to me by my master and to him by his master," Leo said, pointing his katana at me. "I'll teach you how to wield a weapon with no mercy." Having expressed his thoughts, Leo flexed his knees, assuming a swordsman's stance. He then drew a circle around himself in the snow with his leg and said, "Start by attacking me head-on. Don't hold back and don't use mana. Come at me with the intent to kill. If you can make me move from this circle, you might start getting dinner from today. Cling, cling, clinger exclamation mark. The entire snowy meadow resonated with the resounding clash of cold, hard steel as our weapons collided. Though the sun hung high in the sky, the air was still an icy chill in the snowy southern mountains. 4 hours had passed since we started going at each other with everything we've got. I used every ounce of my strength and unleashed an unrelenting barrage of spear thrusts upon Leo, determined to push him out of the circle he drew on the ground. Yet, with effortless and masterful movements, Leo redirected, parried, or blocked each of my spear strikes with his katana. It was frustrating to channel every bit of strength I had in me into my strikes, only for them not to end up connecting. Finally, for the 5th time maybe, I ran out of patience. Clinger exclamation mark. As soon as Leo deflected another one of my strikes, I flicked my right wrist twice and pulled my hidden blade before rushing in on him for close combat. Since he had used his sword to push my spear away, he wouldn't have enough time to bring it back to position and strike me with it. Basically, he is wide open right now. Although his left hand is free, if he uses it to strike me, I will stab it and use my body weight plus the momentum of my rush to propel him out of the circle. Yes, this is my Victoria Thacker exclamation mark. Arghh, but right as I was in the middle of my thoughts, Leo swung his hand inward, with speed that shouldn't be possible for a human. He landed a strike on the side of my ribs with the blunt edge of his blade. Thwacker exclamation mark. But he didn't stop there. With incredible agility, he raised his dominant leg, swiftly chambering his knee before launching a devastating front kick directly into my chest, as if I was a rag doll. The impact of his kick catapulted me into the air before I crashed and landed on the ground a few meters back. Kyuk, kyuk, gasping for breath and coughing violently, I clutched my chest in pain, gradually mustering the strength to rise to my feet. With labored breaths, I fixed my gaze upon Leo. Gah. I refuse to believe that you didn't use mana for that attack, I yelled. Leo arched his eyebrows confusingly. No, I just don't skip the leg day. Not that, I retorted before finally somewhat catching my breath and yelling again. The one before that of the sword strike. How did you swing back your sword so fast? How is that humanly possible? Oh, that? It's just pure weapon handling skills, Leo replied with a casual shrug. Weapon handling skills? My forehead wrinkled with a frown. The redhead instructor elaborated. It refers to the way one wields their weapon in harmony with their body. You may have observed individuals who swing their swords with a graceful finesse, akin to a dance, while some exhibit a more brute force approach as if they are trying to cut through a boulder. It all comes down to their unique style of weapon handling, and through practice and real battle experience, when they hone their style, it becomes a skill. So, what you did just now, I trailed off, my hand gently touching my chin. Yes, it's my own style. Leo finished my sentence with a nod. I prefer to use a light grip on my sword. Doing that allows me to wield it with swiftness and react quickly to unexpected attacks. Of course, Leo continued, I can use hundreds of other styles. What you witnessed was merely one of the countless ways I can employ my sword in a situation similar to that. Whoa, I knew he was amazing, but still, I was stunned to hear that he could have blocked my attack in hundreds of different ways, and to think for even a moment that I had him a broken bar pathetic. During our spar a few days ago at the academy, and even now, Leo deliberately allowed me to believe I could land a strike on him, only to swiftly snatch away that fleeting hope a few seconds later. It was to show me to emphasize the vast discrepancy in our skill levels. He just wanted to make the hierarchy between us clear. He wanted me to know why he's my master, and I'm his disciple. If he actually wanted to end that spar between us that day, he could have done it with a single swing of his sword. I see it now. Even though I knew how strong his character was in the novel, I can see it now with my own eyes. A broken bar from the very beginning. It should have been clear to me a broken bar. Leo and I are in entirely different leagues. A broken bar. Will there ever come a day when I can surpass him? Okay, Lost in my ruminations, I watched as Leo casually stepped out of the circle on the snow-covered ground and sheathed his katana. He then turned to face me. I observed this during our spa that day, but your basics leave much to be desired. My basics? A deeper frown etched itself across my face. Leo nodded, his tone matter of fact. Indeed, your spear tip shakes a little when you thrust. Your swings aren't precise and clean. Your stance, albeit good for someone your age, leaves your right side wide open after you attack. I never noted all that, I admitted, a bit taken aback. I can see, it's because those things have become your habits. I'll change them one by one. Leo let out a sigh. He channeled mana into one of the dimensional rings on his fingers and summoned a black spear in his hands. We'll start scratching away and rewriting your very foundation of spear handling, Leo declared. Do 1,000 thrusts right now. After that, I will thrust my spear at you, and you will use your spear to block my attack 1,000 times. Then you will parry my attacks 1,000 times. After that, finally, you will swing your spear 1,000 times. Why do I feel like I'm not going to get any food tonight either?